Good morning, everyone. How are you guys all doing? I'm so excited to see you all for our 3 hour epic live. I would say I'm a little nervous. It's the longest live I've ever done, and we have so many guest speakers today. We have 6 people visiting us today in total, and we are going to do a very comprehensive overview of Effect House 2.5. How are you doing today? I see the chat is buzzing. We have Haley, we have Brett, we have Mohammed, Sasha. Everyone, welcome. Antones, Jude, Relaxstro. We are also live streaming it at our channel as well. So hello TikTok viewers. I see we have Jerry, Fran, our community manager, supporting us as always. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Hi, HB. Hi, Jefferson. Hi, Han. Hi, KSA. Very nice to meet you. We have a poll going on right now on what your favorite animal is. Unfortunately, the Google doesn't allow you to add more than four animals. So the options are frog, bear, bunny, and tiger. But if you do have your favorite animal that I didn't put on below, let's see. It seems like tiger is winning for me. It is. We're hearing that the audio is duplicated. We are working on that right now, so give me a second. But it seems like tiger is winning by far, 38%. Tell me what your favorite animals are. This has to do with something about our live session today, where I will be teaching you guys how to use the live studio to create an effect. So please write down in the comments what your favorite animal is. Okay, Jude says sound seems to be fixed. Jefferson, my favorite animal is Shiba Inus. Oh, that's so adorable. I love Shibas. They have very cute butts. I think, is it weird to say that one of my favorite things to do is go watch like those cute heart-shaped corgi butts and Shibas? Wolf. I think that's another fantastic choice. Hound says, I like shoebill. Wait, I don't know what shoebill is. Oh, is it that really small, like white bird? Paula says, now the audio is perfect. We did it, guys. Trouble solving. Today, running the stream is Carol. I think if you guys were here for our Tuesday live of office hours, you guys would have seen Carol for the first time. Today, she is Peridot Pet. Yes. HB, you are too good. We have a Peridot challenge going on with Niantic. Peridot is like a 3D magical pet that you can have in your phone, and it uses AR technology. But what I really like about it is that it is really good at detecting the physical world and connecting it with virtual space. So if you throw a ball against a wall, it bounces off. And if your Peridot goes under like a desk, then it actually hides so you can't see the pet. And I think that technology is incredible. Oh, I think I'm mistaking what a shoebill is. Apparently, shoebill is a very big bird. I'm going to definitely look up shoebill. Yes, Jefferson is mentioning, and they have ears like your headphones. Hi, Victoria. Everybody, welcome Victoria. She's our community manager from Brazil. Haley Kappa says cat, tigers, leopards, cheetahs, jaguars. It seems like Haley is fan of all things cat and jaguar family related. I love them too. One funny thing that I noticed is that when all of these animals are stretching out, they kind of all look the same. They look like a really big version of a cat. So I thought that was so funny. Okay. KSA says, someone can help me. I'm new in Effect House. Yes, we can help you today. We have lots of sessions prepared, and I feel like if you follow along, you'll be able to start creating some really awesome effects. So without further ado, I think I am going to get started. It seems like there might be an audio issue occurring again. Let me double check. The audio again. Celine's robot voice. Oh no, guys, do I sound like a... Oh, okay. I think we might have... Yeah, I think we might have to pause our TikTok live. I'm so sorry, guys. I see you guys have sent us roses. Thank you so much for sending so many roses. Oh my gosh. Rajesh says, good morning. Thank you for visiting us. But if you're interested in tuning in on the live, please visit us on our YouTube website. So sorry, the 13 wonderful creators. I'll see you on our YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/ at TikTok Effect House. So we'll see you there. Thank you guys for being so patient. Okay. Okay. I think we are ready to get started. So today, I am going to introduce to you some of the new features that comes with Effect House 2.5.0. And I think this would be a perfect thing for KSA because we have a lot of new user onboarding layouts. So let's get started. Carol, can you play our cool loading screen? The new 3 features that I want to introduce today are new user experience, new in-tool submission, and the Asset Studio. Okay. Sorry. It seems like my computer is being a little slow at the moment. But can you guys tell me where you guys are joining from today? Mohammed says he's joining from Pakistan. Sasha is joining from Denmark. Let me see. Oh no, she's joining from Dominican Republic. Welcome everyone. Yeah. So, okay. Oh, Brett. Brett says hi from Canada. Says hi from Switzerland. Haley's from United States. Wow, I can't believe our live is reaching across the globe. I'm very excited to see all of you guys. Wait, so Han says I'm from Korea. Welcome everyone. France, so international. From Nepal, now from Saudi Arabia. That is awesome, you guys. Lebanon. Yeah, it's the audio is with echo. Okay. Sorry, guys. It seems like we are having some technical troubles today. We've incorporated some new changes in order to do this big 3-hour live. So we just need a little time adjusting. But I promise it would be full of fun content. Bear with us. think everything. So let me, while we are fixing some of the issues. Okay. Um, can you guys tell me what time zone you guys are joining in for? I want to be able to do a live in a time zone that works for a lot of people. So I would love to hear a lot of your perspective on where people are joining from and what time it is. So we can make sure the next live comes with 11:51. 2 a.m. Han, are you okay? Okay, 7:50. 11:51. Central America. Nice. Okay, let me. Okay, we are finally ready to begin. Thank you so much for being patient with us. Okay. Okay, I think we should be go. Ready to go. Okay, now I am going to show you. Uh, so I would. Sorry, guys, just last minute adjusting the sound issues. Hmm. Uh, Han says, "I'm okay, like a bat." Are you usually? I am also very much of a night person, but I know that it's not really good for your health. So I've been trying to move over and become more like a morning person, but it's just hard. I guess what I really like about staying up late at night is like the tranquility and how the world is so peaceful and quiet. So I feel like after a long day going to work and doing a lot of stuff, being super busy, I just really enjoy having like that slow, peaceful moment. Recently, I've been binging on a lot of shows. So I've been watching Succession. I don't know if anybody's watching any fun TV shows at the moment. Has anybody watched Succession? I just watched season 1, the final episode, episode 10. So if anyone has completed the entire series, please do not spoil it for me. I am at this exciting phase where I still don't know who is going to be like the next person in charge of the project. So, Okay. I will be right back, you guys. Okay, perfect. Let's get the tutorial started. Sorry, it's been delayed for so long, but I will give you guys the highlight. It will be ready. It will be good. So let's get started. Today, I'm going to teach you how to do the new user tutorial. So for me, I've already completed the tutorial when I first upgraded my TikTok to this version, but I would love to show you how you can do it again in case you got lost like me. So what you want to do is open up Effect House, and if you go to the top corner, there would be an option here. Under Help, you will be able to select New User Guide. So if you click on it, it will ask you to discard your project, and then you will have this pop-up that says, let's make your first effect with this cute hand-drawn Archie emoji. I think this is totally adorable, and I feel like we need to have Archie merch available for everyone, but let's get started. So if you click on this, it's going to load and it's going to show you all of the Archies carrying up this notification. It says start building an effect by adding an object. So all you have to do is basically follow all of these tutorials so you can start building it and adding. Let's see. What? And then it gives you this little pop-up, and then we're, I think, gonna try using the face sticker object. And you can see that it has a click button plus. So I'm not going to go through this entire thing with you. This only takes like 3 minutes ish. So if you want to check out this tutorial on your own, you can do so by upgrading your Effect House to this version. Or if you've lost it already, go to the top left corner on the help menu and select new user tutorials. If you want to quit in the middle of it like me, you can go to the bottom left corner. It says exit guide, and I'm going to click here and exit out of the new user tutorial. Let's go ahead and create a new project. So today I'm going to be featuring you some new exciting updates for our Asset Studio. So for those of you who aren't the most amazing artists, you can use this feature now to automatically AI generate face assets. So that is why I was doing a poll and asking you guys like what your favorite animal is, because I would love to show you guys how you can generate something super easy using this new feature, Asset Studio. So in the face mask, let's say I wanted to generate a tiger. I would type in the prompt here and click generate. I'm doing tiger because it won with 41% of people. So I've generated, but maybe, what was the bird that we talked about? Maybe we can generate shoebill. Okay, so all you have to do is click whatever one you want and click import. So if you do that, you can see now we have the assets imported. This one is like a PNG sequence, so even if you put it on the screen, it won't apply to your face. It'll just be like a 2D asset. But this one that looks like a little Lego block, this is called a free prefab. So we've already built it for you. So all you need to do is drag and drop, And see, you have an entire effect ready to go. Isn't this insane how it really helps you like prototype and see your effect come to life? I think it's so amazing. I'm gonna go to the opacity section, go up, and you can also change the blend modes. So right now it's at multiply, which means it's applying the thing to your skin. But you can also do stuff like overlay, which will make it a little lighter. Whoa, that's actually a cool effect. Or screen, which is gonna make it really white. Let's do color burn. I think that's going to be really dark into your face. So go ahead and try all of these blend modes. Another fun thing you can do is if you have two-person, here you can select which face you want it to show. So let's say you want to do one is a tiger and one is a bunny. You go ahead here and select which faces that you're gonna put it on. So right now I have it set as 0. So which it will only apply to the first person. But let's say you wanted to only show on the second person, then you can go ahead and change the face to 1 on the other bunny asset. Also, a super cool thing for beginners. This is not a 2.5 feature. I think it came out a couple versions ago, but something that I think is super cool is that we have this built-in portion called interactions. I'm not sure how many people know, but if you click on the interaction sections, this is like a built-in visual scripting subgraph thingy that you can use. So if you don't know visual scripting, you can still use a lot of the fun features. So let me use tap screen to toggle visibility. Now, if you click on the screen, it's going to turn off. If you tap on the screen, it's going to turn on. Isn't this so crazy? You didn't even have to know any visual scripting. You just added this button and now it does all of it for you. So I did this for this face asset, which was your entire face, but it doesn't always have to be for your entire face. You can do this to parts of your thing. Let's say you're a makeup creator and you are creating a custom makeup look with really bold red lipstick, but not all the people want red lipstick. In that case, you can just set the red lipstick as optional by adding this interaction. So the default will be with the red lipstick, but if you don't like the red lipstick, you can just tap on the screen and you'll have the entire makeup look, but just without the red lipstick. So this is one way that you can really help give the users that like customize ability, you know? I'm loving the chat. Sasha's saying, I am in love with 2.5, too much power. Muhammad is saying, amazing, best update of Effect House. I think he really enjoys the Asset Studio. Let me just show you guys one more super cool thing. Let's go back to the Asset Studio. Also, if you already created something or imported something and can't find the Asset Studio, all you have to do is go over here. It's right next to our asset library. If you guys don't know, we have a great selection of 3D, 2D, face effects, all sorts of assets that you can use, and it's literally click and drop. So if you click on import, I'm going to use this cowboy hat. Oh, no, maybe a party hat. I'm going to go here, click import and apply, and it would import this cool 3D assets that we have generated, and it will apply it to my effect. So look, you don't need to know a lot of the 3D sculpting. I know that's another hard portion for us, but if you use something like the asset library, you will be able to quickly add really fun assets. So back to Asset Studio. Here, let me generate something else. What was number 2 on our poll? Number 2 was a frog. Let me see if it generates a fun frog effect. I hope it does. This is so funny. Okay. I'm not really in love with all of these. Maybe this one with a rose. This one's actually kind of funny. But yeah, let's try this one. I'm going to click import, so it's generated. And if you drag and drop, you can see now we are going to have the two layers overlapped. We don't want that, so let me turn off the visibility of the tiger so you can see the frog asset. That is incredibly fun. Now I'm going to teach you a secret hack that allows you to cycle through all of these faces just by clicking on the screen. So what I'm going to do, let me erase the party hat, although it's very fun. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and under add object, I am going to go under 3D and an empty mesh. So because this doesn't have a mesh connected to it, it's just like an empty container. So what I'm basically using this as a folder so I can put all of the assets that I want to use in one neat folder. So I'm going to drag the frog down here, I'm going to drag the tiger down here, and then what I'm going to do is click on this mesh. Under add interactions, I'm going to select tap screen to cycle children visibility. So if you click it, it's only going to show you one thing at a time. So if I click next, it'll be tiger. If I click once, look. And this is how you can create a cool transition effect. And you didn't have to even learn any visual scripting. So this is fantastic. And I hope this was helpful to you guys. I added 2, but you can add as many as you want. You can add 10, you can add 20. So please use this mechanism. This also applies to a lot of different things. It can also be like 3D objects. Let me try just adding a sphere or a cube. And if I put it down here, the first it's going to show a cube, then it's going to show this face mask, then the tiger face mask, and back to the cube. So it doesn't even have to be the same kind of objects. It can be like a 3D object and a face asset and a 2D screen image. So the world's your oyster. I'm hoping. Oh, Haley Cat says interactions are also extremely useful to learn how to improve code. To learn how to improve your coding techniques, and that is a very good point out. So if you wanted to know how you can create something like this, all you have to do is you can double click so you can look into it. Whoopsie daisies. But you should be able to click into it and see how the subgraph is generated. Yeah. Oh, so I just did it. I was just bad at double clicking. So here, as I double clicked it, you can see that this is what is happening. There's another little subgraph thingy here. So you double click into it. And then this is when you'll actually get to see all of the mechanism on what's happening. So here you can see that they're using the flip-flop and using 2 set visibilities to show your object and then disappear your object and then show your object and disappear your object. So this is how you can look. Okay, next up, I have an amazing speaker with us. You guys have seen him a lot on our YouTube channel. Mingus, our technical community manager, is going to come out and showcase new features of Effect House 2.5.0. He's going to be talking about body outline and social kit. So body outline is when he'll demo it for you so you can get more information there, but it's when you have you can get something to circle the outside of the outline of your body, which I think is so cool. So you can have like dancing stars going around or a fun cat or even lights following your outline. So I think that's really cool. Next up is Social Kit, and this is a feature that I've seen people use this kind of effect and then be the most mind blown about. They're like, wait, how does this TikTok effect know who my TikTok friends are? And it's because of our cool system, a new feature called Social Kit, which allows you to kind of take the whichever user is using your effect and their TikTok friends profile and their names. So he will come out and explain more about everything. Let's see the loading screen. Very cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Now I'm joined by our technical community manager, Mingus. Hi, Mingus.
What's up, Celine? Hey, everybody.
How are you feeling today?
I feel good. Um, I'm ready to share some features.
Okay.
Um, I am reading the chat. I am noting things down.
We are noting
Shout
things
out
down.
to Joe, whose social kit effect you all just saw on screen there.
Yeah, so while we were preparing to bring Mingus on the stream, you guys saw a nice little video that shows effect. It shows which of your TikTok friends you're going to allocate into different parts of um, the work. So you can recruit them to be a pilot, they can be a captain, they can be a medical crew, they can be a wild card. So I think this effect was so fun. And today, Mingus can help you create something like this effect.
Yeah, let's jump right in. I see some people asking questions about Social Kit. If you are having some bugs with it, please let us know. Discord is the place to reach me. But it also may be that there's just some confusing because it's a bit of a unique feature. So let me quickly show you all how it works. You're going to access it up here in your Add Object menu. You'll see this category Social Kit. And then you have the option to either add a profile photo or a profile info animation. So if I add profile photo, you'll see it generates two images. One is going to be the profile photo, which I'm moving around here. And the other is going to be the username, which I am moving around here. You'll notice when I start the effect, so when I refresh it, it's going to show these placeholders. So you'll see this one, and then you'll see net name one. And then after a couple seconds, it's going to generate the Shiba Inu, and then it's going to say at Shiba Inu. And those are representational of my TikTok friends. So how this feature works is it's actually pulling profile images and usernames from your TikTok friends. So that's people on TikTok who you follow that are also following you back. Because on the desktop, I don't actually have TikTok friends, it uses these animals as placeholders for their profile photos and for their usernames. And this same behavior will happen on apps. So when you use it actually in TikTok, it is going to show these images and this placeholder name for about a second while it pulls your friends' profile photos and usernames. So that's why maybe some of you are seeing this image and net name right when you start off, because it's actually loading in your friend's information. If you don't want your effects, so if you want to be a little polished and don't want your effects to show those placeholder images, you can of course hide the social kit features while they load things, or you could add maybe a little loading image, and then you could just make it appear once it actually has things loaded up. So I showed you how to add the profile photo, and I showed you how to add a username. Let me delete those. And then the other option is profile info animation. So if I click that, you'll see it's going to give me an animated texture of 10 of my friends and their usernames. Unlike what I just showed you, this is all baked into one image. So the username and the image are actually together. You can't separate them for this. And then you'll see it's going through 10 of my friends, Tiger and Dot and Husky. If you want to change this number, you can click here, down here on the animated texture, and then you'll see a property called profile count. You can change that up to 30 or down to 2, I believe. You'll see if I change it to 2, for a second, it's going to show the placeholders, and then it's going to load 2 random friends. So Akita, I think, and Shiba Inu. Like any animated texture, I can kind of slow that down if I want. I can control the order in which it plays, and then the loop count, -1 being infinite times. If you wanted to, so let me delete this. Say I just wanted to work with 2 friends. Let me delete this. Let's add a screen image. And then let's just pull this profile photo texture for it. Cool, so we have our first friend. And then if I wanted a second friend, actually I could access that also through our asset menu. I could add a texture, profile info texture, and then profile info. And that's going to give me a second profile photo and a second username. So if I added another screen image, and then I made this one profile photo from profile info 2, and of course you can rename these if you want to organize them. You'll see that this one is now going to be my second friend. And that will, after a second, generate with another friend. And note that this is completely random. So you don't have control over which friends are pulled. So every time someone uses this effect, friend 1 is going to be a different friend, and friend 2 will be a different friend. So you don't have control over if I wanted this friend to be Celine every time. I unfortunately can't do that. It's going to be completely random from all of my mutual friends on TikTok. I see some questions coming in. We can get to questions. Celine can give me some questions at the end of this. I'll quickly just open up a template we have that will show you all a use case for this. So you should all have friend forecaster template in your effect house just on the home screen. And if you open that up, you'll see that we've kind of made, oh, that's not a good freeze frame for me. Come back, Mingus.
The screenshot of Mingus is just
all right, we're
me.
back. Yeah, because we're streaming, my camera is doing a lot right now. So cool, you'll see in this template we have, it's actually a bit of a randomizer. So if I refresh it, you'll see it's gonna start with those placeholders, or actually maybe, yeah, so it's gonna start with the placeholders, and then it's gonna land on a random friend, so Akita. And then through visual scripting, we've made it so you can tap one of these 3 frames, and it's gonna add that random friend, so Akita, to that frame. And this is intended to be used as a template, so you can swap these out. I'm sure you've seen lots of different effects of this style. It can be, you know, which friend of mine I think is funny, which friend I think is X, which friend I think is Y. Here, I guess it's kind of who's icy cold, so maybe Ragdoll's icy cold, and then I can do Tiger for this one. And then it does a little pulse to show you it's done. I'm not going to go through all the visual scripting right now, but if you do have questions about any of it, please let me know in the Discord. And always remember, you can also, if you look over here, there'll be subgraphs. You can always click into subgraphs if you want to see how we built those as well. And then if you wanted to, I'm just trying to get back to the main graph. Cool. If you wanted to swap out these assets, you'll see here we have replace texture written in the template. So feel free to make your own frames, and then you can use this exact same template so you can kind of have people tap the screen to add their friends to whatever categories your minds come up with. Celine, are there some questions about Social Kit I can answer before jumping into body outline?
Yeah, Muhammad asked, how can I change the number of characters of usernames? But I don't think we offer that feature at the moment.
You're correct. Yeah, I know that right now it's created so it only shows about 5 or maybe 6 characters. We're working to optimize that because, of course, sometimes usernames are longer than 5 characters. So I hear you, and we are working to extend it, hopefully to show the entire username.
Next question, also by Mohammed, is also, can it show followers as well instead of friends? Also, no at the moment, but I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it's just nice. It's nice that it's kind of, for now, it's a kind of mutual friendship. That's how we have it built around. So people that you're following that also follow you. Noted, that's a good request. We'll see what we can do. But for now, it's built just around people you follow who also follow you.
Okay, I think that was all of the questions at the moment.
All right, let me jump into body outline. So I'm going to create a new effect. You'll see I have one folder on my desktop, body outline. I've cleaned things up for you all today. Cool, so body outline's a new feature also. You'll find it in segmentation because it is kind of working with the outline of my figure. So if I click it, you'll see right off the bat, these white dots are generated that are kind of running along the outline of my body. You can change these textures, you can change their size, you can change their speed, but essentially what this feature does is it's going to create images or animations that run along the outline or are static along the outline. So quickly, I'll just show you a couple things you can do with it, right? If I wanted to change the color, I can do that. If I want to change the size of the images, I can do that. The count refers to how many images are running along my outline. So, you know, if I move it down, it's quite sparse. And then if I bump it up, they're obviously quite condensed. The speed is going to be the speed that they're running along my outline. So if I go quite high positive, they run really quickly. I can go negative to make them run counterclockwise, and then 0, they'll just be at a standstill. You'll see it jitters a little bit just because the algorithms keep detecting my outline, but they're not really circulating. And then coverage is what percentage of my total outline do I want these images to cover. So if I jump to, say, our dancing person, you'll see, you know, 50% is going to have half of this model's outline has images running around it. And then if I add some speed, you'll see it kind of creates a snake almost that runs along the outline. And I can create it a lot shorter. I can bump the count up to try to make it more of a solid snake. And then those are kind of the basic features. If I go into advanced settings quickly, and let me go back to me. Let's do the coverage 100.
It looks like a snake is going around your body.
Right? And you can, which I'll show quickly in a bit, you can add a few body outlines. So if you wanted to have a head and then you wanted to have a tail, you could use some different images to try to construct a literal snake or worm or whatever you want running.
Wow, that's outline, so cool.
Right? Offset is going to be, it's going to take the entire outline, it's going to shift it. So you'll see like that, it shifts it completely. Rotation alignment, I'll have to show you that with the flowers. Essentially what that does is it tells me which way I want the images to be aligned with my outline. So none will be straight up and down like the texture. Normal will have the images all running at a normal to my outline. So if this is my outline, they'll all run perpendicular to it. So if you wanted rays coming off of your body, you would use normal for that. And then tangent, so if we have a circle, this line is running tangent to that circle. So if I wanted lines to all be tangent to my outline, I would choose the tangent option. Then we have the noise amplitude. So you'll see if I change that, that's kind of the noise of the individual images. So kind of how much they're scattered on the outline. And then the frequency is kind of how fast we want those to move. So if you want the outlines to be a little more chaotic, like you want kind of some stinky flies, or you want sparkles that are kind of flickering around your body, you could play with the frequency and the amplitude. Flipping it horizontally is going to flip it all horizontally. Flipping it vertically is going to flip it all vertically. That's the basics. I'm going to quickly show you, I'm going to build one of our templates from scratch that uses some cool flower animations. So to do that, I'm going to import an animated texture, import texture sequence. I'm going to then go into here. I have a pink flower animation and a white flower animation. I will do the pink flower first. So you're going to shift click all your PNGs, import them, and then they'll come in as an animated texture. You'll see if I click it here, that's what's going on. So we've made this little animation.
So beautiful.
Right? And then if I click body outline in this texture property, I can actually swap it for that flower. And then instead of the circles, and let me put this back to white just so we can get the true color of the animation. You'll see we now have these flowers animating. For the sake of this, I'm gonna bump it up maybe to like 60. Cool, I'm gonna turn the count down, maybe 60. Let's do this 50. The speed we don't really need so much of, cool. And then coverage at 100 is great. So we have these flowers. Now, if I wanted to zhuzh it up a little bit more, add a little more to it, I could duplicate my body outline, Right now it's going to be 2 with the pink flowers, but if I import another texture sequence and I go back to a white flower, let me import that. Cool. And now for this body outline 1, I'm going to swap that out for texture sequence 1, which, you know, if I was being a good guy, I would rename these as white flower and pink flower, but for the sake of this, we're okay. Currently,
Name
the
your
white flower.
layers.
All right, here we go, folks. White flower, pink flower, boom, and etc. down here. The white flower is currently, you can see, kind of blocking or occluding the pink flower for some of this, which I don't want. So I'm gonna scale actually the white flower down to about 30. And now you'll see we kind of have this nice layering of flowers. Yeah, it's looking beautiful. One thing I'm gonna also show you is if we wanted to add a little post effect to all of this, I can add what's called a render texture. So texture, render texture. And what that's doing is it's saying this is a texture that will hold the output of a camera. So if I go to this camera that's picking up the pink flower and the white flower outlines, and I send its render texture to that texture we just made, you won't see anything anymore because instead of going to the output, it's actually going right here to this render texture. And then if I create a 2D image and I add that render texture, and it's going to look a little bonkers at first, you'll see it's happening now. It's flipped and it's remembering all the previous frames, which is, you know, cool in itself, but not what I'm going for right now. So to resolve all that, I need to flip my image on the Y. Now we have this kind of an effect. I need to go to the camera that's picking up the flowers, and I need to change the clear type to color depth. Now you'll see it's not remembering every frame. And then I just have to make the clear color fully transparent to get rid of that black. Cool, now it looks the same as before, but it means I can add some effects only to the flowers and not actually to the full screen. So if I go back to this flower camera, I can add a component, post effect, post process, and then you can add whatever you want, but let's do chromatic aberration. And you'll see if I add that, now the flowers are a little trippy, but you see it's not applied to my body or my background. It's only applied to the flowers. And if we set these both in a little bit, so that's with the zoom. If we change the zoom to, okay, let's move it in to -13, and I'll match this one to -13. That's just bringing them in. And then if you wanted it to kind of look like they're behind you, one last thing you could do is add a segmentation. So I'll do a portrait segmentation. We don't need the background, which is here. I can just delete that. And then if I just drag this in front of everything, so that's at the bottom of the hierarchy, you'll see now my segmentation. So I'm cut out and I'm in front of those flowers. So now the flowers are actually look like they're kind of behind me and they don't obstruct myself. Yeah, that's kind of some cool ways to use body outline. Did we have any questions, Celine?
I am not seeing questions on the chat, but
Good.
I had a really fun recommendation for you.
Okay, I'm all ears and scared.
So could you click again to body outline and show maybe how we can use visual scripting to spice it up? So
Cool, yeah, like a quick way, let's just because I know we're tight for time, but say I wanted to use, okay, so let's pull the zoom. And that's kind of how the flowers are in and out. If I set the zoom with visual scripting, I can then use a transit by time node. And let's change that to -13, which we currently have. And let's max it out at, say, 20. Let's ping pong it. Let's loop it, 30 times. Come on, computer, don't fail me now. Cool. And then let's have that be triggered when the effect starts. And the duration of that is 1. So for those who haven't used visual scripting before, this transit by time node is essentially moving something, transiting it over an amount of time. So I am going to take this value here from negative 13 to 20 over 1 second. The interpolator is how it's going to move. So linear, it's just going to move from negative 13 to 20 in a straight line. If we do ease in, out, it's going to be more like this kind of a line if we go back to math class. So it's actually going to ease it in and out of the starting and ending coordinates. This is how many times I want it to loop. And then ping pong means when it gets to the end, come back to the beginning, as opposed to starting at the beginning, going to the end, and then jumping back to the beginning. So let's see if this works. I'll plug stay in, I'll plug this in. Cool, yeah, it's happening. I just want to match it actually with the white flower as well. So I'm gonna pull the zoom from the white flower. So you'll click this dot, set zoom, and then we'll pull this trigger into here, and then we'll match the values. And what that should do is you'll see now it's zooming in
Oh my gosh.
and out.
That's so cool.
Yeah, maybe we can speed it up a little bit, even half a second.
That is so
Cool.
dynamic.
Now it's like my heartbeat. Yeah, it's actually quite trippy. I think the chromatic aberration here. Let's hide the chromatic aberration for a second. See what's actually happening.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's
so
incredible.
You'll see it's pulsing in and out, and then the chromatic aberration just adds a little zhuzh. So yeah, transit by time. Always, when in doubt, if you want to add just a little bit of oomph to your effect, I recommend using this, adding some ease in and out, just to soften things a little bit. So if you want an image to kind of appear, it's nice just to use a little transit by time on the scale.
You can even use the audio nodes and detect the volume and set that as zoom. So when the music goes loud, the outside also goes loud, and the music is quiet, it also goes small. So
there it is. So this is, yeah, if you add an audio file to your effect, you can plug that in right here, and then this will output a number that you can also use if you wanted to set these zooms. All sorts of possibilities in visual scripting. I mean, hundreds of nodes. Yeah, that's all for me, I think, for now. If we don't have questions, I will send it back to you, Celine.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Mingus, for that amazing presentation. I feel like we have learned so much. People are loving it in the chat as well. Everybody's shouting, "Hi, Mingus! Welcome, Mingus!" Sounds great. I unfortunately will have to let you go for our next amazing guest speaker. Say final goodbye.
Bye, everyone. I will see you all on the Discord. I'll see you on the forum. I'm excited to see your social kit, your body outline effects, and any other effects you all make.
Okay, sounds great. Next up, we have... Bye, Mingus. Next up, we have our interactive engineer, Rishi, who is going to come out and explain to us Material Editor. Ooh, Material Editor sounds intimidating and scary, but it is actually not, in fact, and it allows you to create really cool effects because it allows you to create a custom material texture. So I think that is super awesome. He's going to go into introduction on what Material Editor even is. So if you've never heard of this before, please don't be intimidated or worried, because Rishi is a great teacher and he's going to go in step by step and explain to you. And we are also going to show you how to create a pixelate effect. I know this was quite popular in our Effect House community. A lot of people are asking, hey, how do I create this effect? Where did this preset go? And now with this lesson, you can learn how to create a pixelate effect. So we will go into another 1 minute video loading screen. I'll see you guys in 1 minute. And there's no sound, so do not be panicked if there's no sound. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, everybody's dropping clapping emojis for Rishi in the chat. Thank you, everyone. We also have people joining from our TikTok live side. Yes, we brought that back. Everybody is giving a thumbs up and sending roses. Thank you, everyone. This is Rishi. Hi, Rishi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, Celine. Yeah, hey, everyone. My name's Rishi. I'm an interactive engineer at TikTok, and I've been working on Material Graph for a while, so I'm excited to kind of show you guys how that works.
Wow, that's awesome. Can I ask like how you got started in Material Editor? Were you always like a fan, or did you learn after you joined the team?
Yeah, I think I was always really excited about like how do we make the camera look different? How do we add filters and effects that like can really change our perception of what we're doing, and really specifically in terms of like when you're filmmaking, when you're creating short form videos. So I was really excited to kind of see how we can mix a little bit of math, mix a little bit of art, and like make the camera something special. So Material Graph is kind of the perfect tool to do that.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, so many claps going on. I love this.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I will give you the floor so you can introduce what Material Editor is, or what even is Material, and then we'll go on and show you guys how you can create the pixelate effect. You guys saw in the preview loading screen our ambassador Isus creating the pixelate effect. So without further ado, let's get started.
Cool. So here is Effect House, right? And when you go over to the plus tab over here, you can create a custom material now and click on empty material graph. And that'll essentially create this new graph view where you can add your context, add your logic, and then create a special material. So up here, I'm going to pivot back to the pixelate material, which is what we're going to create today. And you can see that like with just a few nodes, I was able to create this simple effect here on the right. And I have added this little slider here that lets me kind of control the pixelation amount. And I can change how pixelated or unpixelated essentially the camera is. And the way I was able to add this effect to the camera was I was able to just go to the camera here, add a post effect, and then under post effect, select material, which is pixelate. So I can actually walk through that for you guys. If I remove this, you can see that the camera now is just the normal TikTok camera. And when I go to add component, I can go down to post effect, post process, add effect, custom, and then I can select a material. In this case, I'll select my pixelate material, and then it adds that effect to my screen.
Rishi, before we move on, could you explain in your own words like what Material Editor is and what Material is and why people should use Material?
Yeah, of course. So the Material Editor lets you essentially create a custom material, and that can essentially be applied to either like a 3D object like your sphere or your plane, or maybe a custom mesh that you imported into Effect House, or that can be used as essentially a screen effect. So you can essentially control like how the pixels are being rendered on TikTok and on Effect House for your effect, and create like very customized effect. So if you've ever written a shader before, it's really similar to that process, but we've kind of abstracted it into tools that are a bit easier to use and a bit easier to scale with some of your effects. You can see
Rishi,
that like
if you don't mind, can you go to the top left corner and click on the Asset Studio, Asset Library?
Yeah.
Asset Library.
Awesome. So this is Asset Studio. Oh, Asset Library.
Yeah, perfect. So what a material is, let's say you have a sphere. Without putting a material, it's just going to be like a white sphere and it won't look like anything. But let's say I wanted to add a fun crocodile alligator texture there. Then by adding that, you are making it look like a ball of crocodile skin. So that's what kind of a material or a texture does. So you have this shape, and what you're doing is basically covering with the texture and the material so that it can look a certain way. So is the screen loading? I don't see it on my side.
I might have to reshare my entire screen, not just the effect window. Let me do that real quick.
So while Rishi is resharing his window, when inside our material inside our asset library, there's actually a bunch of textures that are created with material editor that you can just use. So if you understand and follow today's lecture, yes, of course, you can create your custom materials. But if you don't understand at the moment, do not be worried, because there are preset materials that you can use. It's as simple as drag and drop, like I showed you earlier. So it should, even though if you don't completely understand, don't worry about it. And also, this video will be recorded and edited, so I will have this up on the website. So even if you like miss parts of it, you can go back and look at the video, play around with the tool. I'm also going to host a bunch of different material editor sessions, like tutorial sessions as well. So think of it as like a light introduction. Okay, I think we can see on the screen that there are a bunch of different materials, and you can create things like this. And the material editor is so helpful, because let's say you want to do like a really rugged, concrete looking thing, then just having the photo image texture is not enough, because you want to have like that up and down from that image texture, right? So you want it to come out a little, go in a little, so it looks like really realistic. And by having this option and this material editor, you can really make it believable and realistic, which is why by using material editor, you raise the quality of your effects. Okay, that was my brief intro. Sorry, Rishi, for making you wait, but I think you can go on with your tutorial.
Oh, good, cool. Let me reshare my Effect House window. Awesome. So yeah, as Celine mentioned, essentially you can customize your materials and you can apply essentially the output pixel of that color to a 3D mesh or to a screen effect. So over here I have my pixelate material, and I'm just gonna, here we go. You can see that like I just used a few nodes to create this effect. So let's kind of walk through like what each one of these does, and then we can go ahead and like recreate it ourselves. So I think the most important one for the pixelate material and for any screen effect is to think about like, where am I actually getting the user's camera texture? And I can just use this sample camera or sample texture 2D node to essentially get the user's camera texture and then output that as a pixel to the screen. So if I disconnect this node for now, and I just kind of focus on this specific setup, you can see I need to provide a texture 2D, which I can default to the camera texture, and a UV coordinate, which essentially chooses like where in the material I'm sampling the screen to then output the camera texture. So to create the UV coordinate, you want to essentially use what we call a texture coordinate. And in Effect House, that kind of just defaults and is able to provide like every UV coordinate you need to sample the entire camera on your post effect. So I can just add a texture coordinate and connect UV0 to UV over here. And then you can see it's sampling the entire camera texture. So like, how do I know that this is working the way I want it to work and I'm like sampling each pixel? And how do I modify what those pixel values are? What I like to do is I like to essentially test that out by multiplying my camera texture by a color, and I can see if that color essentially changes the color of the screen. So I'm gonna multiply over here, and all I did was kind of drag this node out and typed in my node library what node I wanted, and then I was able to select that. So to see what different nodes we have, all you have to do is right click add node, and you can go through the different blend modes, the different colors, some constants if you want to kind of set up some data types to improve your workflow, the texture coordinates or kind of the transitions between coordinates, some gradients, some logic. We have a standard PBR and a standard unlit model for you to create kind of more customized materials like Celine was talking about. Some math nodes that you can use to essentially like build your logic for your actual material, some noise, the sampling nodes, and then lastly some utility nodes to kind of build a larger effect. So with the multiply node, I'm basically going to multiply the camera pixel color by 100, and this should essentially mask out the green and blue channels, but keep the red channel because I'm multiplying the red channel by 1, so it stays the same, and then I mask out the green and blue channel, so those both go to 0. So this should produce a red tint over the camera texture. So let's connect this to final color, and you can see it produces the red tint. So we know that we're sampling the camera texture correctly, and we can go ahead and create kind of more of a stylized effect. So I'm going to reconnect the sample 2D texture and delete my multiply blend. So to create that like blocky look in pixelation, where we kind of essentially want each block to in a way be its own pixel and then scale it up by a value, we need to change how we're using this texture coordinate and sampling the actual texture 2D. So I have the logic over here for how to do so, and I can quickly walk through what that looks like. So we're taking the texture coordinate over here, UV0, and we're essentially multiplying it by the amount we want to pixelate. And the way I was able to control that with a slider was I was able to create a parameter. So up here, you can click on My Items, and you can see that we have a list of parameters. And if I want to add a new parameter, I just have to click plus, and I can select the data type of the parameter. In this case, we're doing a float because we want to control essentially the intensity of the pixelation. So I can create a float, and I can rename it pixelation amount. I already have it up here, so I can kind of use the one I have up there. If I want to delete a parameter, I can just click delete over here. If I want to add it to the graph, all I have to do is click this little circle icon and it adds it to the graph, and I'm able to use that parameter. And what's really cool about parameters is that they're also able to be controlled by visual scripting. So if I click on this parameter and then I click over here on details, you can see I can set a minimum and a maximum for the parameter. So I set the pixelation intensity minimum to 1, which would essentially make like one big pixelated block. And then I set the maximum to 100, which is kind of like a low intensity pixelation. And because I was able to set my pixelation amount, when I go over to my effect and I reconnect this logic real quick over here, just going to connect it to my sample texture 2D. You can see that when I click on my material, I have my parameter over here, and I'm able to just kind of control it as a slider. So if I wanted to use this in visual scripting, all I have to do is click this circle icon here, and then I can click set pixelation amount. And when I go over to visual scripting, it should appear over here. So like you can essentially create a custom material, but then control the logic of that material, control the intensity of that material via visual scripting as well. So let's go back to our editor, and we can see that we want to create essentially that blocky look for pixelation. So the way we're doing that is we're essentially multiplying the UV coordinate, which is going from 0 to 1 on from left to right and top to bottom, and by the pixelation amount. So we're scaling essentially the intensity of our UV coordinate. So if I was just kind of to write the math for this so we can kind of look at it, and to create a comment, all I did was highlight everything and click Command C. I'll double click and I'll say this is the UV coordinate times pixelation intensity. And that's essentially what we're scaling up. Then to get this blocky look, we have to round that coordinate. So let's not round it to start. Let's just divide and essentially normalize it and see the outcome. You can see that the outcome is the same. And to get that kind of blocky edge, we have to round that value. So if we round the value, and what round does is it essentially allows you to take an input value and then round it to the nearest integer. And if you ever have a question about what a node does, you can click on this little icon over here, and it pops up a little menu that demonstrates like what it does, what inputs the node takes, what outputs it takes, and like kind of how to use that node. So we want to round that value, and then we want to essentially normalize that value, which is dividing it by its original amount. And that would essentially create a UV coordinate that's more blocky. So if I like go to a very specific value, like let's take 20, what we're doing here is we're scaling up the UV coordinates by 20, then we're rounding them so that they each produce their own little block, and then we're dividing so that we can put it back into the 0 to 1 space that's required for a UV coordinate, and passing that to the camera texture to then sample. And that's like kind of the logic it takes to make a blocky output, and it works really well for getting this pixelation result. So this is essentially how you would create a screen effect. You would sample the camera texture, and then you would manipulate the camera texture in some way, either with the UV coordinate or with what I did earlier, which was I added that red tint by manipulating the output pixel. And then you can essentially output that final value to the shader node over here that takes color, a world position, a normal, or tangent. World position, normal, and tangent will mainly be for 3D effects. So if you're doing some sort of vertex distortion or you're doing some sort of effect specifically on a 3D asset, those are what those are for. but color essentially allows you to manipulate what's the final output color of this effect. And that's the most important thing for screen effects. What's cool is that like you can kind of mix and match techniques. So like I like this pixelation technique, but what if I added my red tint to the pixelation technique? I could just multiply this value by 1 and then connect it to the color, and you can see I kind of was able to mix those two techniques to create this tinted red pixelation effect. And that's what I really like about Material Editor, which is that like you can come up with ideas for different kinds of effects and layer them together with different techniques to produce an outcome that's like unique to you, unique to your style and what you want to create. So before I kind of wrap up talking about Material Editor, I wanted to touch on like when you're starting from scratch, how to think about what kind of material you're creating. So this is our empty material, and if I actually go and disable the post-processing effect here, for now, you can see that like I'll revert, or I'll go over here. I'll actually just delete it in this case. I'll revert back to like the normal camera view. And if I go up to add object, and I go over to 3D, and I add a sphere, you can see that I can change out my material from the basic default material to my empty material graph, and that produces just this kind of white output. So this is what I mean, where I mean that like you can create a custom material and then you can essentially output to that to 3D objects as well. If we wanted to add shading, we could add our standard PBR node and connect that. And this is what it looks like if you were to add this material to a 3D object. But if we were to go back and we were to add this to the camera view, you can see that like when I'm first starting and I'm creating a post effect, I want to essentially add my custom material, connect my material, and it'll add whatever the final color output is here. So in this case, it should, let me try to switch to pixelate and see if that works. And add it again. Back to the pixel graph. Oh, for some reason it's not adding on this one right now, but essentially you're able to start from scratch and add the color you want to add to your camera texture to create a screen effect, and then manipulate that either on the UV side or on the color side as well. And yeah, that's basically how you would create screen effects with Material Editor. And yeah, happy to take any questions on that.
Yeah, thank you. That was fantastic. Rishi, do you think you can demo how we can add a parameter? I think a lot of people are a little confused with the new location.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to connect this RGB color here, and I'm going to redo kind of connecting the pixelation amount parameter. So if you're just like prototyping this effect and you have a constant float to start, that's essentially indicating what the intensity of the pixelation will be, let's say 20. You can see that this value is, let me make sure this is all connected. Actually, I'll revert that. For some reason, it's not connecting. Let me redo that and just get the camera texture in. There we go. Okay, so let's say like, let's take the red tint for example, because I think that's a good example of like how you can add a parameter to essentially what your final output color is going to be. So I'm going to change this to 1 to start. So you can see I kind of like hard coded in this value of 1, but like what if I wanted to change the intensity of the red tint? How would I do that? I can do that with a slider by creating a parameter. So I'll go over here to my items, and I'm going to create a new parameter, and I'm going to make it a float parameter, and I'm just going to call it tint intensity. And after I hit the plus button and I created my parameter, I'm just going to click the circle icon to add it to my scene. and then I can kind of collapse the my items value here. So if I connected just the parameter to this multiply blend, you could see that like when I click on pixelate, it just has this value, and like if I change this value to 0.5, it should be kind of a dull output of the camera texture, because I'm essentially multiplying the entire camera texture by this value. So I want to essentially control this and use this value in a way where I'm applying the red tint. So to do that, I can go over to details, set a minimum and a maximum for this value to create a slider. So my min and max is currently 0, so my slider has nowhere to go. But if I change the max to 1, you can see I have this tint slider now that essentially controls whether we're showing the camera texture or not. And if I want to bake that into my logic, because this is a float and this is a vec3, I would need to essentially create a new vector that I can pass in. So I'm going to go over here to append 3. Append 3 will let me essentially connect this float to be the R channel, and then the rest of these to be 0, and multiply. And then you can see I'm able to control the red tint with a parameter. So to kind of recap that, I go over here to my items to create a new parameter. I can click on this circle to add that parameter to my scene. And when I collapse this, click on my parameter and go over here to details, I can control the attributes of that parameter. So I can rename it if I want. I can control the essentially minimum and maximum to create a slider like that. And if this is something I wanted to animate in visual scripting, I could go over here and click get or set tint intensity to add it to my visual scripting graph. And like how we have the float parameter, we have a lot of different data types. So like color would be if you want to art direct with a specific color and kind of tie that into your graph. Texture 2D would be if you want to let the user add a customized texture, you want to do something in visual scripting to change the texture. Texture cube is for a 3D texture, and then vec2, vec3, and vec4 are kind of just different ways to organize data for your material. Like vec2 could maybe be a coordinate, vec3 could be a color mask, and vec4 could maybe be like a different way you want to store your vertex information. So each parameter kind of has its own utility, but they're all added and controlled the same way.
Thank you, Rishi. I think that was a very helpful explanation. Let's say you wanted to control maybe the size of the pixelate, each pixels, or maybe the red tint using transit by time. Can you show us how you would do that in visual scripting?
Yeah, so essentially, if in your visual scripting graph, when you go to set intensity, you can control this value over here, and this value is what you want to set to essentially determine like how the pixel intensity is going to be. So if I just on update do something really simple, like I take the delta time, or I take the total time, maybe let's do transit by time, and I essentially, actually we can do it even simpler. Maybe we'll just take get time and we'll modulate that by maybe a value of 3 to get 3 seconds, divide this by a value of 3, and we can see, 3, we can see we're going from 0 to 1, and then connect that. You can see that every 3 seconds, essentially, I am increasing the value from 0 to 1 of the tint intensity that I got from my material parameter, and I am able to kind of control and animate what that looks like. So like similarly, you could use the transit by time node and set up like your entire logic for how you'd want the node to work and like how you would essentially be using the timer, what sort of interpolator you'd be using, and then just connect one of these to there. Or like in this simple example, essentially what I'm doing is I'm getting the current time, I'm taking the intervals of 3 seconds, I am normalizing that to a 0 to 1 range, and I'm passing that as a value because my tint intensity goes from 0 to 1 to then control how I'm changing the tint intensity.
Wow, that's super amazing. Now, over the course of 3 seconds, it just moves very, very slowly, so it becomes more and more red, right?
Yep, exactly.
Let's say I were to change that to 10 seconds. You just have to switch the variable over there?
Yeah, so let's, if I have, maybe I'll do like I can just change these values, and you can kind of set up the way you want to manage the values. But if I change these both to 10, essentially what I'm doing here is I'm taking the interval to go from repeat 0 to 10 seconds. And over here, I am normalizing. And what I mean by normalizing is I'm taking the range of 0 to 10 and converting that to a range of 0 to 1. And that's important because my tint intensity here goes from 0 to 1 because I set that value over here in my information. So if I change this to 10, then like I would have to think about making sure that this matches up to what's happening in my visual scripting graph. But like a really common practice for Material Editor is you want to make sure everything is normalized, so between a range of 0 to 1. And then in your visual scripting, you can normalize kind of the values you're passing in. And that way, like, you know really well that, like, okay, if everything's going from 0 to 1, I just need to pass interpolators in that are also going to be normalized and going from 0 to 1. So nothing's kind of going over or under the edge of animation.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. One final question for you. This is a non-technical question. In the chat, NFX Maze, who is our new user, asks, how did you get started building effects?
Yeah, I started building effects. I started writing materials when I was in college, and I was really always interested in material effects. So when I wanted to interview for this job, I was trying to showcase kind of the different sorts of materials that I could write. But then I really learned how to take the materials I knew how to write and turn them into effects while working at TikTok and kind of seeing how that can collaborate with the camera and like add interactions to that as well. So for me, the start was writing materials and kind of doing things like this where I was working in material editors, and I was able to kind of apply some of that from maybe like video game design or maybe like film design to then making effects because they also use materials.
Oh, that's very sweet and amazing. Okay, thank you, Rishi, for that amazing demo. Any final words to the chat?
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and I really am excited to see what everyone creates in the material editor. So, yeah, definitely keep at it, and I'm excited to see all the cool camera effects and 3D effects that come out of it.
Okay, thank you so much, Rishi. Bye.
Bye.
I see from the chat that people are asking for the crocodile material demo. So while we are getting for the next stream, I will show you how to do the crocodile demo. Actually, I learned this from Mingus, who was our second speaker today after me. And he's the one who taught me how to add new assets and then change out the materials. And I saw him use this crocodile material in one of the demos, and I thought it was just the most fun thing ever. So let me go to my screen share page. I have this character, and as always, I am going to go on the left top corner and go to Asset Library. I'm going to go over here and under 3D, select the cowboy hat. I'm going to import and apply. If you just click the import button, it's just going to go down here, so you have to manually drag it up. But if you select import and apply, it's automatically going to be in your screen applied. So it just makes your life a little bit easier. So now you can see that he has a cowboy hat, but it's kind of really bland and it's not okay. It's just basic. I hope the cowboy hat lovers don't come for me, but it's not as fun as the crocodile alligator skin material or the gold material. So let me go back to the asset library, and I'm going to go under materials. There are so many materials that you can choose from, and we are always adding them, so you don't have to worry about them. But let me import this gold material and this alligator leather material. Let's see how it goes. So I'm going to click on the cowboy hat model, and you can see here that we have two different kind of meshes. So if I select on the band mesh, you can see in blue here which area that's it's selected. So let me change it to a nodding one so you can see the band, but you can see that this part is just like this tiny band, and this part is the actual hat. So I'm going to go and select this hat, and under materials, I'm going to go click on alligator leather, and boom, you have an alligator leather cowboy hat. Isn't this crazy? This is so fun. Okay, next up, let me go and change it to the gold material. Boom, now you have a super shiny gold hat. I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and just change some of the colors. Let's say you still want like this gold texture, but you want it to be like a bluish gold. I'm going to go over here and turn the color, and you can see that it is changing depending on what color I'm choosing. So this is a really nice blue tone. I'm also maybe going to turn up the intensity a little bit so it looks a little bit more bright. Here, you can also change the highlight, the thin film. But let me go here and change the metallicness. So you can see if I turn this down, that it really becomes like a solid color and not like that reflective material. And that's because we turned this metallic quality off. Let's also see how it looks when I turn the roughness off. Now, instead of it be looking a little rough, you can see that it's looking real shiny. So even within the material itself, you can go in and tweak it to make little changes. And hi, my cat is here. Muhammad says, amazing gold hat. Wow. So I hope this mini tutorial was helpful. Next up, we have Felicity. You might have seen her in the comments just now. She's also an interactive engineer, and she is going to show us how we can use how we can generate the terrain material. So have you guys ever seen like Animal Crossing where you can choose your own like island layout and decide like which ones you wanted? So in that, something like that. So we are going to use a material editor to create like terrains, color it, and you can generate a bunch. It's going to be so fun. So we're gonna move on to the loading screen and we'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back, everyone. So nice to see your faces. During the little chat, I saw so many heartwarming, fun messages. Number one, Sasha mentioned that it's a wonderful AR day with you, Celine. Thank you, TikTok Effect House. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. It is crazy how many people are tuning in, leaving comments in the live. It's fantastic. Thank you guys all for being here. I love spending all this time with you. Also, Jefferson mentioned that he loves the name Felicity, and that Felicity was actually one of his favorite Sims 2 characters. Hi, Felicity.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't know there was a Sims 2 character named Felicity. I'm named after that TV show from the 90s, I think. That's literally called Felicity.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Was your parents a big fan of that show?
I think so. I've never watched it. I feel like it's a rite of passage for me to watch that show. But I think a lot of the other Felicities I know in my life are also named after that TV show. So.
Is it common? Do you often meet like another Felicity?
Oh, my roommate last year was also called Felicity.
Oh my gosh, that must have been very confusing for the landlord. They're looking at
And
the lease
I've
and they're
al-
saying
I've
Felicity.
also I also met another Felicity like a couple months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and she also knows my roommate Felicity. So it's a very small world.
It is a small world. Everybody is leaving crowd emojis in the call. They're very excited to see you, Felicity. And
Thank
also
you.
in the chat, please let me know if your name is common and have you ever met someone with the exact same name. I think my English name, which is Celine, I actually chose because it means like the moon and lunar. I just thought it was like a cool name. And I met one other Celine, and I think she was Brazilian. And I know it's like a predominantly French name, but I want to see in the chat if you have a common name, if you have a very unique name. So please let us know. Let's get into the tutorial.
Okay. I don't know if my screen. Okay, there we go. All right, hi everybody. So we're going to be making this procedural terrain material today. It's a little bit more complicated than the pixelate material that Rishi showed you, but we're going to be going over and like really diving deep into all the concepts that he demoed earlier. So with this material, we're going to be using noise functions to generate this like 3D terrain. We're going to add color to our terrain, and then we're also going to create this like easy to use interface so you can really quickly like change how your terrain looks with just like adjusting a few sliders. And with this UI, you can connect it with visual scripting and control like different aspects of your material in here too. Okay, so this is the end product, but let's start over from a new material. So I'm gonna create a new material here, empty material. Let's rename it to PCG terrain material. Let me hide this plane. Let me create a new empty mesh. So we could use the plane, the default plane that we have in Effect House, except the problem with this default plane is that it's really low poly count. So if I applied my finished material, it clearly is not working. And that's just because there are too few vertices on this mesh, which is why we need to use a high poly count plane, which I exported it from just like Maya or Blender. You can create it on your own.
Sorry,
So,
Felicity. Before you move on, I just wanted to explain what vertex is and what a shader can do. So let's say you're building a plane. Then let's imagine that it looks like a grid. So something with a lot of vertex. Vertex is like a corner where a mesh meets. A mesh is like the 3D object looking thing. If you have a high vertex object, it means that it is split into a lot of different grids. So let's say you had your finger under the big grid and you were poking it up. If you had no seams like this paper book I have, then if you poke it, it won't move. But let's say these were actually a bunch of little tiny papers connected together. Then if I push it up, it's going to, like the screen Felicity has up, it's going to be able to create ups and downs and ups and downs. So in that case, that is why we are using a high poly mesh, which means there's lots and lots of vertex. And if you don't have Blender or other programs to create this, don't worry, because we're going to provide to you this exact plane that she's using so you guys can follow along. And also, let's say when you another cool feature about this material editor is that you can push the planes up and down. So earlier I gave you an example of, let's say we are creating a material like a concrete or an alligator skin. In order for it to look realistic, alligator skin has like dipples and ups and downs, right? So what material editor allows you to do is push the vertex, the lines up and down, which makes it more realistic. So what we're doing with this particular tutorial is pushing that to the max. So we're gonna give some of the areas a lot of push. So it's going to be like a mountain peak, and we're going to give some of the areas a little down. So it will be like the ocean and the sand and the beachy area. So it'll look really nice. But that is what we're doing, and that is called vertex distortion. So we are distorting the mesh on the vertex axis. So in not just the textures, but you can also go in 3 dimensions, up and down. Okay, on to you, Felicity.
Yeah, thank you for explaining everything in layman's terms. I really appreciate it. Okay, yeah, so I'll take it a little bit slower. So now I have my empty mesh, and I'm just gonna name it my terrain. And I've applied my high poly count grid as well as my new blank material. Okay, so let's go over our noise functions and what they are. So in our material editor, we provide you 3 noise functions. So we have simplex noise, we have Voronoi noise, and we also have gradient noise. You can see how they all have very similar inputs. So they have a coordinate input and then a scale input. So into the coordinate, we'll need to add a texture chord. And if I plug this into here, and then, so what this is basically doing is it's taking like each point on our grid and then plugging that into our mathematical function. And then this function is going to spew out a number, one number that's between 0 and 1. And if I plug this into color, we can see what simplex noise looks like. So we get this like black and white texture. And the reason why it's black and white is because since our noise number is between 0 and 1, if we convert this to a color, it'll be like 0, 0, 0 is black, and then 1, 1, 1 is white. So we get this output. And similarly, this is what Voronoi noise looks like. And then this is what gradient noise looks like. So you can see how like each of these noise functions looks like slightly different from each other. And if we translate this into how we want to create our landscapes, they each provide like different styles, and you can like mix and match them to make really cool landscapes. So for example, like gradient noise, if we take like the white areas and pretend like that's the area that's going to be raised up the most, and then the darker areas are going to be more like lower and flat, you can see like, oh, like this could be like flat grassy fields with like low hills, or like a desert with like a couple sand dunes. Whereas for Voronoi noise, you can see like these like sharp white lines and peaks, and then like these like really low like hits. So it could be like really rocky mountains or like crashing sharp waves or something. And then simplex noise is sort of like gradient noise, but it's just sort of like smooth like bumps and like hills and stuff.
So
yeah.
To ask you a question, we need to tell the computer basically which points of the mesh that we want to push up and which points we want to lower, right? So in this case, is the whites the parts that's going to be highest or the lowest?
Yeah, the white is going to be highest. So like 1 larger, 1 is going to be higher, and then the darker areas are closer to 0. So we're going to use that and make those areas like more flat and lower.
So basically, we are using this map to tell our program, oh, the areas that are in white are the areas that I want to push up, and the areas in black are the ones I want to leave, right? Or go down.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. So another thing we have in our inputs is scale. So if I so right now scale is 3. So if I make this 10 and 10, you can see that our noise map has become more dense and was a lot more smaller looking. And that's because the scale input basically controls how many times your texture is tiled, repeated. So the higher the number, the more dense it's going to look. So yeah, we'll be using that to our advantage too. Another thing we can do is blend between two noise functions. So we are going to use a lerp node. A lerp node is basically mixing two things together. So we have an input A and an input B. If I drag in simplex noise as my first input and Voronoi noise as my second input, and plug this in. Okay, so weight is a number between 0 and 1. The closer we are to 0, the more of simplex noise we'll see, and the closer we are to 1, the more of Voronoi noise we'll see. So then if we put weight at 0.5, you'll get a nice halfway midpoint between the two noise functions. And this is great because now we can use both of these noise functions together to make something more interesting and more natural looking. Okay, so as I said earlier, we're going to be making a tool. So as you can see here, I have a bunch of sliders in my original material, and I know there's a bunch of questions on parameters and how to set this up. So let's go over that really quickly. So up here, the 3 lines, if I click that, I get a parameters drop down, which will hold all my parameters. If I click the plus, I can create all different types. And for our case, we want to create a float parameter, so a number parameter, and that's going to be our noise lerp. And then if I click the details icon up here, I can see and control the min and the max to enable sliders to appear here. So for the noise, that's basically our weight input for lerp. So I said earlier that it's going to be between 0 and 1. Okay, so then if I click this dot here, that will create my parameter for me. And then once I connect my parameter into my entire material graph, it will appear under the material properties for your terrain material. So now if I slide this slider, I can go from Voronoi to simplex and then all in between. And it's really easy because now I don't have to type in my numbers manually. I can just, do this nonstop. Cool. Okay. And then let's create more parameters. So we'll need another float. This is going to be for the scale of the simplex noise, and then another float for the Voronoi scale. I'm going to create both of these. Let me really quickly turn them into sliders again. So I'm going to go from 1 to 5, for example, and this one can be 1 to 10. So the numbers I'm putting here are completely up to you. You can define them however you see fit and what makes sense for your the object that you're putting the material on. So this float parameter won't fit into scale because scale is a vector 2, so it needs like a 2 input thing. I saw another question that was oh, how do I convert it to different types? So I can go over 2 ways. So if I drag off of here and I search up append, you can use this append node and then plug in 2 numbers, and then the output will be a vector 2. So then I can plug it into here. So in our case, we're going to be using our 1 simplex scale number and then putting that as our X and Y scale. So now I've added that in. So if I use the slider that's appeared on my material properties, I can slide this up and control the scale of my simplex noise really quickly. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my Voronoi noise. So there's another way to like convert something into a different type. You can drag off and say, get the cast node. So with the cast node, if you select it and then press the details button, you can change what you're going to be casting to. So in this case, I want to cast to a Vec2. I saw in the chat there was a question about, oh, how do I cast to like a Vec4 or a color? Like you can totally just change it here and it'll change the resulting output. So I'm going to use a Vec2 and then I'm going to plug that into here. And once again, I have my Voronoi noise scale slider appear here, and then I can really quickly just adjust how I want my terrain to look, like this. Okay. And then finally, a lot of parameters, bear with me, but we're going to create another float, and this is going to be our coordinate offset. So if you notice, like whenever I'm like scaling up my noise and like blending them, like it's just the same like perspective almost of like the texture doesn't really change. It's just getting smaller or bigger. But if you want more variety, we have to offset our coordinates. So where we're like what we're plugging into our noise functions basically. So with our coordinate offset, let's make that into a slider. We can set the min and max to whatever, because all we're doing is like just adding or subtracting like random numbers to it. So if I do drag off of here, add, I'm going to cast this again to a vector 2, and then plug that in. And then plug that into the coordinate here and the coordinate input here. So now basically I am adding my coordinate offset to my texture coordinate. So if I drag the slider around, I am basically passing in like a different input into my noise function each time. And with different inputs, you get like different outputs as well. So yeah, this is how you can get a bunch of different variety really quick. And get like, yeah, just different types of terrain if you don't like how your current one is looking. Okay, so that was part 1. So I'm just gonna comment around and put like noise functions. Okay. Oh, another thing I forgot to show you guys is that you can group your parameters together. So if I go back to my demo material, you can see how like I had these like different sections in my parameters, so I can like, you know, keep things organized. So if I want to give this to someone else, like it's really easy to use. So the way to do that is like under each of your parameters, if you click on them and then click the details, and under group, you can like define a group that it want to put the parameter under. So noise functions. I'm gonna put it under there so you can see it automatically move, and I'm gonna quickly do that for all of them just so we can keep things nice and tidy. Okay, so that's our noise functions. Okay, so our terrain is looking very black and white and looking very flat. So let's get to the exciting part of like actually making our terrain go up. So we're gonna need our normal attribute as well. Oh gosh, hello. Sorry, and our position attribute. So normal attribute is the normal, like a normal on your object. So in our case, our plane, our normals are just going straight up, like perpendicular to our plane. And then the position attribute is just a particular position on your plane. So what we're gonna do is take our output noise function value, which is between 0 and 1, so it's black and white. And we're going to control how much along our perpendicular like line on our plane, we're going to drive our terrain up. So if I take this 0 to 1 number and multiply it with our normal, this is basically sort of like scaling how much we're going to move. So like 0 times something is just going to keep it really flat. And then like 1 times something is going to, keep it as it is. So if I take this vector, this normal, and I add it to our position right here, and then plug that in, you can very slightly see that our terrain is bumpy, which is good, but it's not that bumpy. And to fix that, we're going to have to, change how much we're scaling up, basically. So since our output right now is between 0 and 1, let's say we want to increase it to like 0 to 5. To do that, we need to multiply our noise value with another parameter. So if I do parameter float, let's call this height multiplier, change that into a slider between 1 and 5, or it doesn't matter actually. Okay, plug that in. So now I can drive up our height multiplier and you can see our terrain increasing in height. Okay, cool. But you can see that like the terrain is sort of increasing at a uniform height right now. It's like not that dramatic or interesting looking. So we're gonna use another like mathematical function to help us fix that problem. So let me make things all nice and tidy. So if I use a POW node, so from math class, you might remember like, oh, x to the power 2, x to the power 3. So we're just raising our number to an exponent, to a power. And in terms of like, in our case, what this does is it increases the contrast of our noise map. So if I plug this POW output into our shader, so you can see like, oh, like it's kind of blown up right now. It's really like white because of this multiply. But if I like increased our exponent to like 5, you can see like, okay, I should detach this. You can see like the white areas become more white and then the darker areas became like more dark. So just to show you the difference. So 1 in the exponent made it like normal. But then if I like make it 10, it's going to be like super dark and then super white. And that's going to make sure that we get some, more variation in our terrain. Okay, let me try that into here. Okay, so let me really quickly make another parameter, POW exponent. Put another slider between like 1 and like 5, plug that in, and then I can use this to like sort of drive up the lighter areas and while keeping like the darker areas more flat. Okay. Oh, sorry, this is okay. So in the interest of time, I'm gonna go over the colors stuff first. Okay, so in our editor, we can add a node and then we can add a const color. Let me select our, okay, so just so we can see what we're making again, we're trying to make this. So we're gonna make water and then sand and then like green mountains. So we're gonna use, let's pick up our color scheme. So let's do like a green, that's really ugly. Like a green, and then like a darker green for, or like maybe a brown for our mountains, and then a like a yellow for our sand, and then a darker yellow for other sand, and then a last one for our water. So let's make that, and then that. Okay. So like we used the lerp node before, we can mix between two colors really easily. So I'm going to lerp between two colors. And then we're going to use the black and white sort of like scale for our weight. So like the darker areas, we're going to be using green, and then the lighter areas, we're going to be using brown. So if I take our output noise here and then plug that into our weight, and then replace our color with our lerped color here, you should see nice color in your mountains. It looks very beautiful. And we can proceed to do the same thing with our other color schemes. So really quickly, just gonna plug them all in. And we're also going to use our noise number for both of these. So this is what our mountains are gonna look like. This is what our sandy beaches will look like. And then this is what our water will look like. But like, how do we combine them all together is the question. So what we can do is we can use a bunch of if statements to, tell our material like, oh, if my noise value is like greater than some number, then I'm gonna do sand. Otherwise, it will be water, et cetera, et cetera. So what I want to do is take this output of our POW node, plug that into here. So if this output, if our output height basically is greater than, let's say, 0.1, then I want it to be sand. Otherwise, I want water. And if I plug this back into here, should be able to see some water pop up. Okay, very slightly. So the benefit of sliders is that instead of me just like trying to figure out what number specifically would work, I can just create another float and do like water height. Between like 0.1 and like 1, for example. Plug that into here. And then now, under my material, I can like increase this water height really easily just by manipulating this slider. So I'm gonna put it as 1 for now. Okay, and we're going to do a similar thing with our sand and grass. So if my terrain height is greater than some other number, let's say 1.5, then if it's greater than 1.5, then I want it to be our mountains. Otherwise, I want it to be whatever we have so far, which is here. So I'm going to plug this in, drag this into here. Okay, and there we go. We've got some beautiful terrain going on. And yeah, you can like create another parameter and such for the sand height, for example, and then plug that into here.
This is super cool, Felicity. We just got water. Felicity really said, "Let there be water," and then water popped up.
Let there be water. Yeah. I think we're kind of short on time. There's a lot of other stuff I wanted to go over, but if there
Felicity,
isn't,
you
then I
have
can
time.
just pause. Oh, I do?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
okay. Then I will continue. Okay, yeah. So I just created a slider for my sand height, so I can, just increase this and make it as high as I want. And then also whether I want a drought or something, I can do that too. Okay, so another thing, since I have time, that I can go over is animating some water. So a cool thing you can do in Material Graph is you can animate things as well. So let's create a timer node. So I have access to the total time, delta time, and smooth delta time. But what we're going to be focusing on is total time. So we're going to be offsetting more texture coordinates. So like I did earlier with like how I added this coordinate offset here, so I could do this here. I'm going to do a similar thing, but I'm going to use the time instead. So I'm going to add the time to my texture coordinate, and then I'm going to feed this in to a Voronoi noise node and use that as my coordinate. Oh, actually, no, my scale. Oh, hold up. Oh, wait, sorry, my bad. I got mixed up. So for texture coordinate, I'm going to keep it as it is, but what we're manipulating with time is actually the offset. So if I really quickly show you what Voronoi noise looks like again. Okay. Oh, that's fun. Oh, I dragged in the wrong thing. So yeah, this is another feature with Voronoi noise, is that you can get a secondary texture with it, which is the cell output. And that basically is like, if you remember, Voronoi noise had those like sharp dots. And those are basically like cells where like, so like these dots right here. So you can like sort of just get like the general like area of like each section, basically. That's another thing you can do with Voronoi noise. But we're gonna use Voronoi noise for our water because if you've ever seen like foam on top of water, it kind of looks like this, like the ripples and everything. So we're gonna use that to our advantage. But the problem with Voronoi noise is that there's like these funky little dots. And like I used the power node before to increase the contrast between light and dark, we can do the same thing with our Voronoi noise. So if I add a POW node here, let's change that to 3, for example, and then plug that into our color output. You can see like, oh, like our dot is gone and we're sort of left with like just the white outlines and just like more spread out darker areas for our water. And that's all because of the POW node, and that I increased the exponent from 1 to 3. Okay. So I'm gonna add, so the timer node, my bad. So the timer node actually is supposed to go into offset. And that basically sort of like moves those dots around. And that's how we're gonna get like this weird tadpole looking water. But once we use this, we're gonna use this like noise map and plug this in to our water color like weight. So before we were using our terrain to drive like, to drive the gradient, we're gonna use our new Voronoi noise to drive the gradient. So if I plug this back in, and then this back in, okay, you can see in the water, you can see our water moving, and it's got the same colors as our previous water. You can change the scale like by, once again, creating more parameters. Water scale. And then let's set that to be, to be 1 and like 10, for example. I'm gonna cast this once again into a vec2 and plug that in. So now I can increase the scale, and by scale I mean like how many times my noise is being sampled. So now I get some more, smaller water ripples that match the size of my terrain right now. And it's slowly moving, and it looks great. Okay. How much time do I have, Celine?
I think. What do you want to show?
Oh, I mean, just like adding one more noise function so you can get more interesting things.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be great.
Okay. Okay, so the very, very, very last thing I wanted to go over is how to get more interesting terrain. So right now it looks like really smooth. So like our mountains look, I don't know, not that realistic maybe. So what we can do is add another noise function on top of our current noise function. So right now our simplex noise is set to like a scale of 2, which is kind of low. But then the higher I make it, I don't know, that doesn't look really good, very good to me. It looks like way too dense, and like I prefer my like nice little island look. But what we can do is create another simplex noise. Let me make all of this bigger. Okay, another simplex noise that has the same coordinate, but then the scale is a lot higher. So if I create another float and call it like simplex high scale, and then plug that in, plug that into the scale. Simplex, oops, I missed. Simplex high scale. I'm gonna have it go really high, so I'm gonna go from like 7 to like 12, for example. So I have my high simplex noise and my low simplex noise. And then I'm going to lerp, which is blend or mix. Lerp these two together. And then feed this output into here. So I have a low simplex noise and a high simplex noise, like lightly blended together. And then I'm gonna blend that with my Voronoi noise. So let me swap these two because I think it makes more sense. Okay, I'm not gonna swap it. Okay, so let me create another float, and this is going to be our simplex lerp. More sliders between 0 and 1. Get this, plug this into here. Okay, so this looks awful, but if I take my high scale, drive it up, and then my simplex lerp, I'm going to move it all the way over here, around here maybe. So the reason why it's 0.8, like the higher I am, the nicer it looks, is because I've put in my high simplex noise as my A input and then my low simplex noise as my B input. So I still want it to be closer to my low simplex noise, like here, but I just want to add just a tinge of high simplex noise so it looks a little bit more nice, or a little bit more like, messy. And yeah, I can get a bunch of different terrains just by like sliding this around. And yeah, I think that is it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank
Okay.
you, Felicity, for that amazing demo. I think Jefferson knew what was coming when he mentioned earlier that you are like a Sims character, because I would love to live in that island. That is
Yeah.
really cool what you're doing with your screen right now, where you can just scroll and it shows you all of the different type of islands. Like, this is the benefit of procedurally generating terrains, because when you scroll the bar like that, Felicity, could you do that again?
Do what?
Can
This?
you scroll the bar so people can see like
This?
yeah. It's so crazy how many different types of islands you can create just by adjusting that value. So maybe you can do a randomizer or a value so that you can be like, what island are you going to live in? And then you'll have a random node and you'll make it pause at certain points, and that can be your tropical island. So so many possibilities on how you can adopt this into an effect. It gives off a totally different vibe if you do it into like a sphere as well. So please investigate, try out. All of these files will be shared in our Discord. So please join our Discord channel. Our wonderful community manager, Fran, has been leaving the links in our comments, so you can check it out there. But you've done such a fantastic job, Felicity. Thank you. Jefferson is saying, thank you, Felicity. Just became a big fan.
Thanks, Jefferson.
Fran is saying, be right back, packing to move to that island. Take me with you, Fran. Chantel is also joining in from TikTok Live, and she's saying, I want to live on that island. So I think everybody agrees.
Oh, the 2 islands. But yeah,
Okay.
thanks, guys.
Any final message for the chat? Want to say your final goodbyes? Okay, that's great. Bye. Hashtag Team Felicity.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, we still have 2 more tutorials to go. Can you believe it? Next up, we have Runza. He is our technical product manager, and I'm not going to tell you where, but you might have seen him somewhere if you're a fan of Effect House. So let me see if you can guess where you saw him. So be ready and cue the loading screen. Okay. I am here with Runza. the Texas Felicity, but it's definitely Reza. And today he is going to tell us how to use the material editor to create the time warp scan. So as you guys saw in the loading screen, time warp scan is when like a blue bar comes out and then it like captures this area, so you can do really cool effects. I don't know if you guys have played with this effect before, but it was so viral. So I bet you did. One of my favorite trends was to do how would you look like if you were in a Tim Burton movie. So I saw that a lot of people were doing like a really dead eye up until here, and then here they would like do this. And then create your hands to create that really thin jawline that's like iconic of a lot of characters. So please let me know if you've tried out the effect. And I'm joined here by Renza. Hi, Renza.
Hello, everyone.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm technical product manager. I help make sure the visual scripting and material editor, everything related to graph system is working correctly and meeting expectation. Yeah. And I'm also the model of the Effect House.
Yay! I mean, if you use Effect House, you've seen him before. So the first time I met him, before I was a creator, before joining TikTok, I've seen him so many times. So when I met him in person for the first time, it really felt like I was meeting a celebrity, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're the model, you're the person. So I don't know if anyone has ever wondered, like, who are these people? Are they models? Are they AI generated? Are they stock images? Like, what is happening? It was actually our employee, Runza, and he was selected for being handsome and having great dancing skills. So please leave it in the chat if you have seen Runza before in Effect House. Okay, I'm going to give you the floor so you can start your tutorial.
Okay, so let's start it. I think first thing first, since it's post-process effect, meaning it's like a full screen, so we definitely need to use a component called like post effect custom. Basically, it gives you a full screen effect, and we need to create a custom material. So just by dragging this custom material to the custom pass in the post-process component, you just create a full screen effect. Now let's change this to clearing. So the way how this time warp scan is made is using the camera clear mode. So you can imagine like imaging it, like a full screen image that is being cleared, and from top down, when the part is being cleared, is not cleared by like it's clipped by the material graph or the material editor, but it's not deleted by the camera. So the camera only clear the depth, it doesn't clear color. So in that way, when it's deleting in a timeline basis, so you will see the part being deleted that is not cleared remain on the screen. So in order to do that, first let's change this to a texture. So let's add a source texture. So, and then we change this to, let's say, a camera input. It's a little bit hard to see, so I might just multiply a color so that you guys can see easily. Okay, so when it's clearing in let's say Y direction or X direction, right? So let's make it first vertically clearing. So let's give it a Y ratio reference. And then we're gonna use the UVY to compare it to the Y ratio. So when it's greater than the Y ratio, we use um, like the source texture we set. And when it's not, we just clear it without doing anything, just the transparent color. So let's say if we set the Y ratio to 0.5, now you will see it being deleted, it's being cleared like 50%. And then you can just, let me set a range to it, 0 to 1. So now when you drag it, it's being cleared from 0%, from 0 to 100%. And you will see the part that is being clear is black. That is because currently the blend mode is normal, so we need to set it to transparent. Now it's like you are creating a full screen image that is being cleared in one direction, in Y direction, from like 0% to 100%. So that's like the basic step. And why it's not like the clearing part that is not being contained, that is because in the clearing, we're using the final render output. This RT has a default input texture that is the input source camera texture. So we need to create a new texture that is not being cleared by anything that is like a default texture. So the default color is like transparent and 0, 0. So let's just call it clearing. Then we need to
Runza,
set this.
sorry to bother
Yes.
you, but I think it's unacceptable how you're doing this tutorial and not using your own video.
Oh,
You should
okay.
do your own
Okay.
video.
All
In the
right.
comments, I'm seeing so many funny comments. From
Okay.
our
Okay.
TikTok
Cool.
live side, Luca
Okay.
is
Let's do
saying,
that.
wait, person two? And then Chantal mentioned, haha, I feel like I know his face better than my own mother's. And then from our YouTube side, Filter Dank says, Runza, your face has come in handy for many of my strangest effects. So
Oh my god! Thank you guys so much.
sorry to bother you. Go back to your tutorial.
Okay. Okay. So I already changed to my own, and where I so okay. So now we changed this render texture to a customized render texture, and now we know like this clearing RT doesn't have any input texture. So meaning like you can clear according to how you set up the camera clear type. So meaning if you clear in color, it will clear. It will input it first by using the color. So if clear depth, then it will like clear the color. It will not clear color, but it will only clear depth. So now we just don't leave it again because we only wanted to not clear color. So that's already done. Okay, and then we need another custom process to definitely just show the result. Let's just say result. Okay, and now let's just for example create a new material called like result. For this one, we basically just need to output the custom RT. So okay, and that's it. And then let's just put the clearing here. And apply the result material to this custom pass. Okay. And let's set the default to 0. Okay, see how it's upside down, and I know you guys pretty much aware of this situation from a long time ago. Do not panic. There's an easy fix for now, and we're looking into this and try to fix this as soon as possible. So in Material Graph, it's really easy to make things like reverse things. So basically just split the UV and like 1 minus the Y and combine it back together. Then it's just fixed. Okay, now let's say, I'm gonna just show my camera so like now when you change the Z value, so once it's cleared, so the hard part is not cleared, right? The part that is being cleared is left there because the camera is not clearing it. And this clearing RT doesn't have an input texture. So it's basically the clearing mode is 100% controlled by the clear type. So now everything is left there. So now we just need to animate this Y ratio. Let's say we set it, and give it tap screen maybe. Tap. And set it to 0. And now let's use the transit by time. Just stay. And from 0 to 1, duration maybe 5 seconds. And once I tap, it just start, right? Okay, let's just remove this this red color for now. Okay, now we're gonna add the line. So for the line, I'm just gonna quickly add a texture I prepared so that you guys can see clearly. Since we don't want this line to be captured, so we use another render group. Okay, so you guys can move this thing outside. I'm gonna just put on the top to make a reference. And in the visual scripting, we're just gonna set the position of this thing. So oh, and I don't know if you guys know, like when you shift the drag from this thing, it will automatically create a sequence node. If you guys don't know, that's very handy. And we can set this position here and just do another transition time. Basically, probably from, it's a VEC2, so just change a Y value from to minus. Just try to give you a quick illustration. Yeah, pretty much like it. Okay, and now if you like add ping pong, it will just like scan down and then go back.
Wow, Runza, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, and that's like the basic setting. And with that, you can do actually a lot of like customization on top of it. For example, like when you clear it, right, you can, in the clearing setup, you can actually add another filter on top so that it will be also captured. For example, let's add a motion blur maybe. Let me delete this one. Okay, now see, I have this blur, right? This blur can be also captured. So like your blur, let me set this slower. Maybe not ping pong. Okay, so like when you just scan it and you will see like your shaking, your kind of motion blur will also be captured. Yeah.
Whoa, that's really cool. It totally gives the effect a different look.
Yes.
It
and
kind
it's
of
very
looks like a
fun to
haunted
play with.
paranormal
Yeah.
image as well. Like, is this proof of ghosts? Can I submit it?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. So, and also like chromatic aberration. Yeah, it's a very common one, right? So like so like all the post, it's like pre-post process can also be captured by this setup. And see like how currently everything is being processed because we are rendering like step by step, and result is showing on the final render output. If we move this to the same render group, then your current one is not being affected. You only see the result uh, from the scanned version. So it could be you can play with the render order to see like what you need. And also like this for now is like vertical clearing, right? So if you want a horizontal clearing, what you can do like super easily is just change the scan ratio from Y to X, right? So let's try that horizontal. All you need to do is maybe change this to X ratio and change it from comparing to X to Y. And let's turn this off for now. Oh, and then apply this horizontal clearing. And also we need to set the Z value here also.
So instead of it going like this, it would go
Yeah.
from side to side like this, right?
Right.
One of the favorite videos I've seen people create with this side time warp skin is they bring their dog or their pet and then they like move it this way so it looks like they have a really long neck or a really long body, so it looks like a really interesting creature that kind of
Yeah.
resembles a
Oh
dog,
yeah, I
but
know
it's a
that one.
unicorn or giraffe.
Yeah. And also like people do like letters or something like a opal
Yeah.
or something
You know,
like that.
my
Yeah.
favorite one is when they have like a headphone like this and then they sync it just with like that and then you move it down like this. So it looks like they have like a really cool helmet on, or
Yeah,
them
exactly.
using their shadows and building like a wing like that. People are so creative.
Yeah, exactly.
Ranzo,
And
when
also
you
like to
were
make this even fancier, like you can create like a sphere scan, like a
What?
circle scan.
That's
So you
so
can scan
cool.
from the center using like SDF, like sign distance field or something. I can show a quick example because I
Yeah.
prepared like a circle one. So let's create another one called.
Ranzo, when you were making it, did you know? Did you expect how people are gonna use it at all?
Yeah. So like, I had some like expectation, but I didn't expect it to be so viral. Like people are using it like basically using it as like a creation canvas. Like they can just do whatever they want, and a lot of things are like out of my mind. It's like, what, you can do this? Yeah.
How did you feel when that effect went viral?
Oh, that was really satisfying. Yeah, because the I think this whole idea, like it was, I think, like a long time ago, like some famous artists, they're experimenting it with like their dancing videos and to do that. And I was like, when I did that, I was just like from like totally technical perspective, and I was just trying to say, oh, if this is achievable and you're using shader or material graph, and then it went so viral. Yeah, and I feel like that's really just a very, very happy accident, I think. Yeah. Okay. Where I was. Okay, circular skin. So the circular skin, we need and I prepared a subgraph called SDF circle. So instead of comparing to the y ratio, we need to compare it to the radius. So basically what it does is you just imagine you are drawing a circle field and then you compare the current pixel if it's in the circle or outside the circle. So you're creating the P is the position of the UV. So what you need to do is just put this here. And also the center is something you define. Let's say I want the circle to scan from the middle, right? So I just create a constant, maybe it's called 0.5, 0.5. So now it's calculating the position of the texture. So when the texture is being drawn, is from the first texture and iterate through the whole texture. You find the current texture if it's in the circle that is being transitioned from like a dot to the whole screen, right? And then to compare if the current dot is in the circle or not. If it's in the circle, then it should be cleared. If it's outside the circle, it should be using the camera texture. So we just say if the distance minus radius is bigger than 0 or smaller than 0, it's greater than 0 or like, so, and then I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. Okay, let's try to change this to the circular scan. Okay. And also,
While Runza is working on changing small settings, I would love to tell you that you can also add 3D like objects, maybe as a face tracker or head tracker, and then it will also be in the scan. So let's say you wanted to throw a cute 3D peridot there, and then you can do time warp scan with the peridots. That's so funny.
yeah.
I am loving the chat. A lot of people are mentioning that they are excited for all of these long tutorials. It feels like a holiday. Another person mentioned that it feels like they are in an AR meeting in person. They're having so much fun. Bruno is saying, "I love the long lives because I'm following it while I work." So I'm glad that we are here as like your nice background noise radio. Oh wow, Relaxadro says it is almost 3 hours now, and it has felt like less time. Time really flies when you're having fun. I'm glad. I can't believe you stayed with us the entire time. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, now you see like how it's scanned from the middle. It might be a little bit hard to see. Let me clear this first and maybe make it a little bit longer. Wait, 10 seconds.
Also, Renza, I think it might be easier if you use maybe like a face, one of the dancing full body characters. But that is so fun as well. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
Right, so it can scan in the circle. See how this is like a little bit stretched? That's because the Y value is not being multiplied by the ratio of the canvas. So what you need to do is just multiply um, it's always 9:16 ratio.
So while we are waiting, let me tell you about some active challenges we have. Did you guys know that we are currently running a Mission Impossible Effect Challenge in collaboration with Paramount, like Tom Cruise? I've actually loved watching Mission Impossible series. They're such a successful franchise. Like, how many movies are they on? I forgot, but I think they have at least 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So I'm going to read about the challenge. It says, about this challenge, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to create your best spy themed effect for a chance to win incredible prizes. TikTok Effect House is teaming up with Paramount Pictures to present the Mission Impossible Challenge to celebrate the release of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So I will put the link to that in the comments so you can check it out. And we still have the Niantic Peridot challenge going on. It is almost over, and you still have a chance to win $10,000, which is the grand prize. The last chance to submit is June 21st. So please make sure you submit it. You have a week now, I think.
Yeah. Okay, now it's a circular, and you can also use it with like maybe chromatic aberration. So like when it's scanned, it has this crazy like color effect with it.
Wow! Oh my gosh, that's such a cool effect.
Yeah, and then the like yeah, so this is like a SDF circle, right? So basically, you can use any sign distance field to change the way how it's being scanned, and then you can change this position, like to maybe not starting from the very center. It could be starting from, let's say, where your finger is at, blah blah blah. So basically, like you just change its position. The centering circle will starting from a different place. Yeah, it could be react to your tap, right? Where you tap, it just start to scan from your tap position. So
Whoa,
there are a
that
lot of
sounds
places to play with this. Yeah.
that's
It
such
could
a
be
fun
super.
idea.
Yeah. And oh, about the 3D asset, right? So for 3D asset, you need to layer it clearly with another maybe render target. But I can show quick example like um, for example, let's use a hat tracker, and under the
Are we
hat
not
tracker,
gonna use a fun asset like a cowboy hat?
yeah, we can do that. um, so let me just drag this to here. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, so see how this cube will also be like kind of like a canvas.
Whoa, that's super fun.
Yeah, so it's a way to, let's say, combine your 3D assets and use it as like maybe a draw pen to create your stuff, something like that. Yeah, but you need to create another canvas to delete it after it's being, or it's like just keep drawing. Yeah, that's another way of making this more like you can have a lot of secondary creation. Yeah.
Amazing. Last up, is there a way to apply like a color LUT to the entire screen? Maybe like a rainbow color. So when it's going out like that, you have like different parts of the rainbow.
Oh, yeah, sure. So let's use the circular to do an example, maybe. Um, so what we need to do is, um, while we are coloring it off, we need to give it a random color applied to it. So let's just multiply different color, but instead of set a specific color, we'll give it a color parameter. Then we multiply to it. So now it's wet. Let's say if I change it to red, then it's red, right? What we can do is we randomize it also in this transition. So just set this color here. Get a random value. We don't want the transparency to randomize. Just give it 1. Yeah, oh, that's too quick. But you get idea, like how you can.
Wow, it's a disco party over here.
Yeah, let me turn off the aberration for now, and then
This is such a fun effect. I feel like if I was creating something for like a music festival, this is something I would definitely look into.
yeah, so basically the color is changing, right? But while you're deleting, the moment you delete it, the color will be captured, but it's keep changing. So yeah, you can also like maybe delay a little bit so that it doesn't change that fast, right? Like maybe 0.3 seconds. So
Also, we will share these project files to you guys so you guys can also play around with it. And if you have any more questions, as always, you can ask them during our office hour channels, or you can go to our Discord where we will all be lurking and helping you answer your questions. So leave them on our Discord channel as well. Okay, Renza, any final words for your fan base and audience?
Yeah, I think thank you guys for using me as the model. Yeah, and
he's telling you guys that don't use any models, use me, only me.
No, yeah, and it's really fun, like working a tool that for creation and see how you guys using it like so creatively. Yeah, that's definitely the joy. Yeah.
Renza, we have one question. Florentia is saying, can you use this with segmentation?
You can use this with segmentation. Yeah.
Very
So you can like scan this and use a segmentation. So like you can only, for example, put a background and then you only scan your segmentation. So you're like only scanning yourself without the environment. So for example, you put a solid color there and it just look very artsy. Yeah, you can definitely play it with a lot of different features we have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now we have a new hashtag going for you, Renza. We are hashtag team person 2.
Yay.
Okay, I think that is the end of the session for Renza. Let's everybody give him a good round of applause and a goodbye to Renza. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
We will be back in 1 minute with our final and last special guest speaker, Weston. You guys have seen him, but everybody knows that his energy is amazing. So without further ado, let's go on to our loading page, and I'll see you guys in 1 minute. Let's go, let's go! Party time! Woohoo! I love Weston's energy. Everybody is going wild in the chats with star emojis. People are saying party time, party. People are saying teacher Weston, Professor Weston. Good morning, teacher.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
We are so happy to have you here, Weston. For those of you who are joining for the first time, can you give yourself a little intro, Weston?
Hi, I'm Weston. I'm the technical product manager for Effect House. I work mostly with the physics features, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, can we get the ball rolling?
Weston, can you please show us your fantastic shirt?
Oh my I don't know, something
Party
like,
time!
I'm a little party today, you know, getting ready for Friday, getting excited. I also got my sunglasses here.
Oh, look at that. Outfit. Look at that. He's got style. He's got glam. Love that for you. Okay. In the intro sequence, we showed you the effect from Maxime Kuzlin. He is one of our ambassadors. And you saw what a crazy effect that he made. He made a whole bowling alley. And you can shoot bowling balls. And it is insane. If you haven't seen it already, definitely check it out. That effect is amazing. And now I'm going to give the floor to you, Weston.
Thank you so much, Celine. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm really excited to show you the second phase of our physics features in Effect House. This is the big one. This is rigid body and colliders. So I have a short presentation, then we'll get right into Effect House. So just to go over, if you've never played with rigid bodies and colliders before, do not worry because I'll make it super easy for you today. Rigid body is a new component in Effect House that when it's added to an object, it will put the object's motion under the control of Effect House's physics engine. This allows it to be influenced by forces like gravity and other objects. It can hit and collide with other objects using our new colliders, which is another new component we have in Effect House. So this allows for physical collision between objects and rigid bodies. So all the effects here you see in this presentation were all made using rigid body and colliders. This is the rigid body component. The rigid body component is the piece de resistance for physics. It allows you to make all these different sort of parameters that make really unique effects. So I'm going to go over this really quickly, and then we'll build some effects with it. So the rigid body the rigid body component has a few parameters. We have mass, which is the weight of the object in the simulation. It also determines how it interacts with other objects in the physics simulation. So just think of this is easy, but you can just think about stuff in real life, right? If something is heavier than something else, it will perhaps bounce less and it will overpower it when it hits it. We also have these damping and angular dampening, which is the amount of resistance the object will experience when it's moving in 3D space. This is helpful if you want to make something that's supposed to look more fluid when it's falling or whatnot, and I'll show you some use cases soon. These external force and external torques are really important parameters. These allow you to add forces to the object in a specific direction. So if you want to simulate wind or anything, you can use external force. Torque is the object's rotation. So if you want a ball to spin, you'd use an external torque. You might want to use an external force and torque if you want to make something like a bowling effect. And this last property is very, very important. It's called is static. This allows the object to freeze its position, and then you can move it using set transform nodes, which is really helpful if you want to make something like this, where a bunch of objects are falling from the sky and they keep falling and falling and falling. And thank you to Mingus, who I think you saw earlier today, for making this effect using rigid body and colliders. It looks really great. So this is a really unique effect because this is sort of the first time in Effect House you can actually instance objects, meaning that they can keep falling and falling and falling. You can do raindrops, and these are the same objects, so it's really performant as well. So for the features, you can add realistic physics to any object in Effect House. That includes all 3D and 2D objects, and even crazy stuff like lights and cameras, and just go wild. And we have box colliders, sphere colliders, and capsule colliders. Those are the three types of colliders we have in Effect House right now. I also want to go over some current limitations. This is a very young physics engine, and we're working really, really hard to make it so you can make whatever effect you want to make. So right now there's some limited visual scripting interaction. So it's a little difficult to make some effects. And we've already heard some feedback from the community, and we have a really great plan that we're going to take to address this. You can't change the physics material values because, you can't change the physics material values. So for example, bounciness and friction, those are preset right now, but in the future, we'll open those all up to you. We also implemented universal gravity. So when you add an object to Effect House, it will start to fall, which is different than before. And right now, you can only add one collider per rigid body, but we're working on that as well. And I think this is my favorite part. You can now combine colliders with dynamic chain.
Woohoo!
Yes, it's so exciting because you can think of all the cool earring effects or necklaces or anything. So you can now each of these spheres here has a sphere collider on it, and this box has a box collider on it, and you can do some really interesting realistic physics interactions. But don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you in Effect House right now. We're going to get straight into the editor. This is a new template we have. It's called the pinball template. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of this template. It's pretty simple, but it looks so beautiful, and it's really exciting to see. And then I want to hop in and I want to make it an effect before your eyes. I want to show you how easy it is to make a physics effect and how many literally endless, limitless possibilities there are. Because we've implemented real world physics into Effect House, so you can think of all the crazy stuff you can make. Cool. Okay, so let's get right into this pinball template. This is a new template on the Effect House template page on the home page of Effect House. And I really like it because I think there's a lot of opportunity for diverse effect creation here. So you can think of all the different things that you could put in these yes or no categories. And it's like a new age of like randomizer and potential effects. It's really exciting. So this effect is really simple. Every time you tap, it gets the ball and it randomly goes into one or yes or no. So we'll do it again and we'll see if we get the same thing. Oh, we got yes again. But you can also see that's using the same ball every time, which is really exciting. Oh, that one got no. So there's a few this effect is pretty simple, but there's a few things that are important to point out here that I'm gonna go ahead and do for you. So first, let's take a look at how it's built in the scene view. So you can see that every single one of these has a collider on it, and we don't have things like a heart-shaped collider or I think these are music notes, a music note-shaped collider. So our designers had to get a little creative by combining the colliders we have to make these shapes. So let's go ahead and open this and we'll break it down. So we'll start with the level itself. So here we have the frame, which is the entire pinball machine you can see here. And each of these has a collider. So this thing right here, this purple thing, is just one simple capsule collider. This heart mesh is 2 colliders that are both capsule colliders that are combined like this. Here, if I turn off the mesh renderer here, it might be easier to see. So you can see here that the colliders are in the shape of a heart. So you can get really creative with the sort of different shapes of these colliders and really, really interesting interactions here. All right, let me turn this mesh renderer back on because I love how this template looks. And you can do all sorts of things. You can change these assets out using our asset library. Use a peridot for the ball or something. It could be really fun. This rigid body, this is the actual thing that is falling. Now there's something. Oh, look at this. Oh, I thought we balanced it at the top there. That would have been a rare effect. This rigid body is once again, it's the key to these physics interactions. So here our template team has chosen some values, like the mass of the ball is 5. We put a 0.3 damping on it and a 0.5 angular damping. That gives us a really nice fluids pinball simulation. And I think it looks really, really special. But something that's really important to remember about our physics engine is it's deterministic. Deterministic means that every single time for example, you drop a ball, it will follow the same exact path every time. So we have a little thing we do to work around this, and I'm going to teach you this today because it's so critical for creating something like these randomizer effects here. The most important thing to remember here is that you have to change very subtly. You have to change, here, let me go ahead to the visual scripting graph here. You have to very, very subtly change the randomizer of the force. So every single time that the user clicks, let me go ahead and make this visual scripting bigger and easier to read. Okay, I'm gonna push this down. And can I move that a little? Okay, great. So every single time we have screen tap or on video record, we want the ball to fall, right? And we want it to be different every time. That's crucial to make really diverse and interesting TikTok effects. So we take the force and we do a random value between -2 and 2. These are arbitrary values. And we combine those, and then we give those external forces to the ball mesh. So once again, you can see here we use the random node. We combine those two to a vector 3 value, and then we're able to give those. So every single time you click this, it's giving it a random new force, which is the reason why it goes in a different path every time. Now, if we didn't do that, and every time we just did a value of 1 and 1, for example, the physics effect would be the same thing every time. So it's going to fall right, hit the duck, go left, and then bounce and go to no. So if we click it again, it's going to go back, hit. Oh, wait, no, it didn't. Okay, well, there's a little bit of randomization. Maybe there's some other randomization. It did go to no each time. So maybe there's some little randomization as well in the back end here. But this you got to make sure that you want to improve the randomization so that there's a unique effect happening every time. We want every single time a user has an experience with the TikTok effect, we want it to be unique and cool so they can post it and make you famous. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna undo here. Hopefully, there we go. Great. So the logic of this effect beyond that is pretty simple. It's really relying on Effect House's physics engine. And yeah, one other thing I want to show you is we need to limit the ball so that it doesn't bounce in an unexpected way, right? So, sometimes if the ball hits something, the heart at a weird angle, it might want to bounce forward out of the pinball, which is no good. So you can see here, they've built, I'm going to make this scene view a little easier to look at. So you can see these green wireframes. These green wireframes show you where the collider is in 3D space. That's really helpful for building these physics effects. So what I want to show you here is that these green colliders are placed all around the pinball here so that the ball doesn't fly everywhere, and we have make sure that it's always expected behavior. All right. So that is the pinball template. I could talk for hours about the pinball template, but I also want to show you how to make something from scratch. I want to show you the deep, intricate things you can make. So I'd love to take a opportunity to ask our live chat. We have a live event happening, so might as well make use of the live chat. I would love to know what sort of effects you might want to see making physics. Although I can't maybe make something as high fidelity as this pinball effect live right now, I can show you the basics. I can show you the different systems you can create using these physics effects. So maybe Celine can help me to get some recommendations from the chat while or if there's any questions on the pinball template before we do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's do it. I think you are really leveraging this live crowd and live session. Let's see what you guys want to create. So give me a recommendation on what we should create. Should we do a bowling effect, or should we do stack the boxes effect? Weston, what other ideas do you have?
Those are really good ones. One of my favorites, and maybe this is something we can create today, is I love interaction with head tracking. I think showing the user's head is really fun for effects. So I was thinking of something like a balance the ball effect on the user's head, or we can do some like, it would be fun if we keep getting the balls and then they have to keep bouncing more and more balls over time, some sort of challenge effects. Those are my favorite effects. I would love to hear
personally, I love it when I'm watching soccer and then the goalkeeper just like knocks out the ball with his head. So maybe we can create something as well where we have to use our head to block the soccer balls and see how many you can keep from going inside the goalpost. So many ideas.
Cool. Well, let's just start creating and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to open up a new project here. And while I do that,
sorry, Weston, for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Someone asked yesterday if we could do something with kicking a ball.
Oh, yeah, I don't have much room in this small room, so I'm not sure I could demo that, but I can show you the logic behind something like a kicking the ball effect, and then we can totally do that.
Ooh, a lot of people are saying balancing the ball is a fun idea.
Let's do it. I'm super excited. Okay.
So we're going to do how to do a balanced ball tutorial today. But if a lot of people are interested in knowing how to create how you can kick a ball, we will come back with another session.
Totally. Yeah, that would be a lot of
Weston,
fun.
I guess you're just going to have to come back. People love you.
I love being here. I love interacting with the community, and doing it live is really fun too. Yeah. So thanks for having me. But we're not done. Let's go ahead and make this effect. So first I want to show you just the basics of this effect, and then we'll do all the complicated interactions if we get to it at the time. So the basic of this effect is I'm gonna do some head tracking, and I want a ball to bounce and hit my head and it to fly somewhere, and maybe if I'm lucky, we can do a collider on the bottom of my head where I can balance the ball. So let's do that one first. So here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an object. I'm going to add a 3D, let's do a sphere here. So now I have a 3D sphere in the scene, and what I can do with the 3D sphere is I can add the component. We can go to our 3D physics section, and I can go to rigid body. So So now the rigid body will fall out of the scene, which is no good because we want to make sure that it hits something, right? So I'm going to now set up a thing for it to hit. So I'm going to get this cube. I'm going to move this down. And I'm going to add a component to the cube. I'm going to add a box collider to the cube. Since the cube is a box, that works really well. So I'll add the box collider here. And it still falls through. That's okay. Because a sphere, although it has the rigid body, it doesn't have anything colliding with it. Now, this is something we don't really think about in real life. Because everything that is affected by gravity in real life also has a collider. But in our engine, you need to make sure that the sphere has its own collider. So I'm going to go add component, sphere collider. Now, when they hit, they will stay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rescale this just to make it more like a little platform. And I'll make it a little thinner as well. Now you can notice that when I move this up, it moves with it. Now we have a physics effect. Cool. I want to also just show you how these colliders work really quickly. So each of these colliders has a few parameters. This box collider has a size, an offset, and you can also enable or disable to show the collider in our scene view. This is going to be really helpful for those of you who make really complex effects that have so many colliders, and it might be a little messy in the scene view. So we added this show collider option. That when you turn it off, you can see the green goes away here. So the collider, now it's invisible, but you can see that the collider in 3D space there. And if we turn that off, we show the collider off, then it's easy for you. It sort of cleans up your view. It's a quality of life sort of thing. Okay, great. So we're already halfway to making a cool effect. I think there's a lot of challenge effects that can be made here. Challenge effects are really cool on TikTok. Trying to get a ball in a cup or something. It's all really fun. But let's go ahead and just balance the ball effect. So I have an idea where we can put the box on my neck and we'll attach it to the AR tracker, and then we can have this sphere that sort of balances on top of it. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add an object. I'm going to go to AR tracking. I'm going to go to head tracker. So now we have our head tracker in 3D space, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and drag my cube onto my head so that I parent my cube to my head. Great. So I'm going to use mine because it's just easier for me to control. Oh, look, we've already made the effect pretty much. I'm going to make it a little easier. So I want to make sure a really important thing to remember when you're making AR effects, especially physics, is you want to make the user, you want to make the person that's using your effect, the creator, you want to make them the centerpiece. Although you're making a really, really cool physics effect, make sure that you always include the creator in there. So that's why something like an effect like this will be pretty cool. So now you can notice that when I move my head around, the box collider or the cube will go with it. It's not quite perfect though, but we can go ahead and move it back here. And now we sort of have something that's doing, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm gonna enhance the surface area here a little. So I'll increase it. I want to make it still challenging, but you can see that I have a platform here that works pretty well. It also looks pretty good with the head occluder, right? So you can see behind me. So that's pretty fun. But let me just make sure. Oops. I'm just gonna adjust it a little. And
can we change the color of the sphere so we can see a little better? Perfect.
Yeah, totally. And you know what I'm gonna do with that is I'm gonna use our new asset library. So I'll go to our new asset library and I'm going to get a material. Let's take a look. Okay. Redwood, that might be good for the thing. Ooh, satin plastic, polka dot, matte plastic, that's looking pretty good. Let's do dimpled plastic. I'm gonna download that and it will automatically load into my effect using magic.
Magic!
And we'll go to the sphere. I'll go to the material here and I'm gonna do the dimpled plastic. Let's see what it looks like now. Wow, that's much easier to see. You're right, Celine. Thank you for the recommendation. So now if we have this effect, oh, I'm really bad at this. Here, let's see. Oh no! I think it fell off the. Oh no, I still had it. Okay, but now it's really easy to see. Let's get one more asset for the ground here. I think I like that wood, walnut wood. God, there's so many options.
While Weston is choosing the material, I would love to mention to you that we have a microjam project that allows you to put a timer on here. So if you want to make this more gamified, you can say, see how long you can keep this ball on the platform. Connected with the microjam timer project, then boom, you have an effect.
Totally, Celine. Totally. That's a great recommendation. I think I might make this effect myself, so I hope no one steals my idea. I'm just kidding. Please do. So here, oh, look at this. Now we've created a wooden platform here with.
Oh my gosh, honestly, that wooden platform really looks so realistic.
Right?
So instead of just like a round ball, now I'm thinking you can make it into balance the apple to give it your own personal oomph.
Exactly. You can totally customize this effect.
So
but there's one problem.
So sorry. We had a question from the chat. Brett and Projo AR filters were asking. I think on the previous template you showed, you had a heart-shaped object, and then in order to do that, you use two different colliders. They're saying, can one object only have one collider? And if you added another one, how did you add that?
That's an awesome question. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that while showing you how to improve this effect right here. So we have a huge problem with this effect where the ball goes through my head. That's no good. We can't have that. That breaks my experience. So let's go ahead and fix that. And the way we're gonna fix this is by putting multiple colliders on my head to create a realistic hitbox for my head. Let's go ahead and show what that looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add a sphere here, and we're gonna get a little messy in the scene in the preview window, so don't worry too much about that. But I'm gonna parent this sphere to my head. So what I want to do now is I'm actually going to let's turn this cube and sphere off just so we can focus on what I'm going to show you right here, which is adding multiple colliders to a single object. Now, earlier I said you can't add multiple colliders to a rigid body object. What that means is right now we have a limitation of our physics engine where we can't exactly add multiple colliders to a single rigid body. So like, for example, the ball that's falling, that's going to have to only use one collider for now. But since these colliders, this head collider I'm creating, for example, is not a rigid body, it's just a collider. So I can add as many colliders as I want to that. Go ahead and show. So I'm gonna make this bigger, and here I'm gonna use my head in 3D space to sort of figure out how big I want to make this ball. That looks pretty good for the top of my head here. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add a sphere collider to that. So now this collider is it looks a little weird because I have this mesh on, but I'm gonna turn the mesh renderer off. Now this collider, you can see it in our scene view here with this green outline. This collider is attached to my head, and I can add multiple colliders to my head. So I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm going to move it down just a little. That looks pretty good for the bottom of my head, but I also want to do the brim of my nose as well. I think the brim of my nose is important because if a ball hits it, I want it to bounce off that. So I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to add a box collider using this cube. And I'm going to try to line this up with my head here. Let's move this forward a little and put this down. And like that. So you can see I'm sort of starting to create a box collider for my head. Just like that. Perfect. Now I'll add the box collider here. Once again, I'm going to turn off this mesh renderer. So right now I actually have a compound collider is what we call it when you put multiple colliders on a single object. That's a compound collider. So now we have 3 colliders on my face. They're all invisible. But now if we add the cube back here and the sphere, let's see what happens. I think it's hitting my face and bouncing off here. You saw it, yeah. Here, let me go ahead and move this sphere up. So it's a little tricky, but we'll figure it out. I'm gonna move this sphere up here, try to get some more distance here. There it is. It's hitting my face now, so you can see. So now we can sort of see in our 3D view that there's not a lot of room on my box here. So I'm gonna have to make this a little bigger to account for how little space we have on this now. And I'm gonna try this one more time here. Great. Okay, now let's see. Oh, you can see now it hits my head. It hits my head using our compound collider. I mean, I can make it bounce.
And it's not
so
going through your head anymore.
No, it is not. It is. My head is now acting as a collision. So the ball, which also has a collider, will not collide with my head. And yeah, Celine, just like you mentioned, I can provide this file, but hopefully you can follow along too. You can add whatever you want to this effect. You can do a timer. You can do the balls, rotating randomly. There's a lot of fun things you can do here. Here, let's use my friend Runza here for the remainder of this. He's really good at balancing the ball. Excellent, cool. So that's that. We can do multiple different balls. And we can do a whole challenge here where you can try to balance multiple balls at the same time. It's pretty difficult.
Two at the same time, Weston. Wow.
Hey, that was pretty good, actually. That was like at least 4 seconds. Cool. So yeah, that's the introduction to rigid bodies and colliders. I can't wait to see what you make. It's so exciting to see what everyone's been making so far, just with so little time. But are there any questions in the chat, Celine?
Weston, I feel like you've done a fantastic job explaining, because we asked the crowd which one has been your favorite feature, and physics is 90%. Oh my god!
Wow, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. That's so awesome.
And people are saying you're so eloquently spoken that you should become a politician. So we're doing President Weston 2023.
No, I'll stay doing my Effect House tutorials. Thanks.
Jefferson has a question for you. He's saying the ball always falls from close to the camera. Can it fall on the same Z depth as the head tracker?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. So right now my ball is just falling arbitrarily in 3D space. I have it set at this transform. But if you wanted to, and I think we've seen some effects do this already, you can take the position of the head mesh in 3D space, and you can, when the effect starts or when the user taps, you can set the transform of the two spheres to above the head tracker. Now, remember, you must click this is static property. That's so important, because that allows you to change the position of the sphere in 3D space. If you don't have the is static property checked, it will not do anything when you try to set the position, because it's under the influence of Effect House's physics engine. So it's a little complicated there, but as long as you can say set is static and then make sure that this is checked to on when you want to do this transform, that's how you can get around it. And yes, you can totally make the balls always fall above the person's head.
Okay, one more question. Kel says, can we do it so that the ball spawns after it falls off?
Yes, totally. So we have some more features coming that are going to make that way easier to make, but you can definitely do that. So just to walk through the logic quickly, it's similar to what I mentioned with this is static property. So after the ball, let's say the ball hits here, bounces and then falls off. So we can be like, oh, after the position is like -50 here, I can see on the Y axis on my right hand side inspector window. after the ball is about -50, I want to check it to make sure that it's below -50. I want to check the is static property, and then I want to reset its transform to be my original transform. Here it's 1333 -1. That's arbitrary. But the key there, once again, is this is static property. And we have more information on that on our learning resources here. I wrote a whole section about how you can use the rigid body component with the is static property. Which enables you to do all these unique effects where after a ball falls off, it can respawn, or you can do some really, really cool and unique things. And we have everything in these 3D physics learning resources where we have examples with colliders, how you can use each collider and a breakdown of their properties. Dynamic chain, hopefully you've all known about dynamic chain for now. And some really cool things you can do with these rigid body effects.
Okay, Projo AR Filters is asking, can Weston show us some examples projects using is static and visual scripting?
Sure, yeah, the pinball effect I showed you earlier, that uses is static. We can do a quick demo right now. It might take a little bit. But yeah, you can look at the pinball template. You can break that down. We have the team did a really good job breaking that down into really small chunks that's readable, and we put some comment boxes around those so you can use it for yourself. So if you want to try the is static thing that I was talking about, go ahead and check out the pinball template, and you can refactor and redo the pinball template to meet your own needs. But I don't know how much time we have, Selena. I can try doing something live, but I want to be conscientious of all of our time.
Yeah, it seems like we have a lot of questions about physics, so maybe I can arrange an office hour time with Weston so you guys can come answer all of your questions, and then Weston can answer it, so it'll be fun.
Totally, that sounds like a lot of fun. I would
oh my gosh, we started at 10:30 and it is 2:10 right now. It's been 3.5 hours. It's crazy.
Wow.
I can't believe how long you guys have stuck with me. It was fantastic. Thank you, Weston, for that amazing tutorial. Everybody absolutely loved it. Any last final words for the chat, Weston?
Thank you so much. It's so inspiring to see all the awesome effects you make. It's really, really a pleasure. And thank you, Celine, for this opportunity to interface with the community live. It's really fun. I love doing this. I can't wait to come back, and we'll have some physics office hours soon. Thank you for all the cool questions.
Woo!
I'm pretty active on the Effect House Discord and the community forum, so feel free to ask your physics questions there, and I'll try to get to it quicker. But yes, Celine's been streaming for a long time, so she needs to have a break.
I am hungry. I'm gonna go get lunch. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
Okay, everyone. I'm gonna say our final goodbyes to Weston. Bye, Weston.
Bye.
We will be back with physics office hours soon, so look out for that on our live calendar. But I think this will be the end of our very, very long stream. Thank you, everyone, for coming. There's so many lovely comments in the stream. Brett is saying, great stream. Kel saying, I loved every moment of this. Muhammad said, really enjoyed this live stream. Bruno says, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you everyone for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you guys again for another fun tutorial. Bye, guys.